August 15th. Meeting's a little different tonight, but I'll run through the agenda. Just before we have a general business meeting for the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Selectmen are going to hold a public hearing regarding the applicant for a liquor license. And after we've concluded that public hearing, we will go into a Board of Selectmen general business meeting, of which will be approval of the meeting minutes, a facility use request by the Dunstable Theater Collaborative, a discussion regarding PFAS in the town of Groton. We have representatives from the town of Groton here with us this afternoon, this evening. The land development agreement, lease agreement with MCO for the Mud District, Union Building contract for adaptive reuse and the feasibility study, a request to relocate some ARPA money, town administrator's report, new and old business, and after that, we'll adjourn. And so I'd like to call the public hearing to order. And there's a couple of things. First of all, the public hearing is in the matter of an applicant, which is known as Dunstable Liquors, LLC. The business name will be known as Dunstable Country Liquors, and it will be located at 238 Pleasant Street. And so some ground rules. Anybody that's going to speak in this matter, please identify yourself by name and your address. And at this time, I'd like for those who are here speaking on behalf of Dunstable Liquors to please stand, and so for the record, to please stand and identify yourselves.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Flores on behalf of Amy Free and Jay Free, owners of Dunstable Liquors LLC. I'm with Gallagher and Kavanaugh at 22 Shadow Street, Lowell, Massachusetts.
My name is Jay Free. I am owner of the location at 238 Pleasant Street. My address is 68 Shenango Drive, Nashville, New Hampshire, 03462.
My name is Amy Marie. I currently run the store in the town. And you know, I guess everybody knows me here.
We've seen you before.
Okay, great. Now, if we could ask for the applicant to give us a brief overview of what your intentions are and somewhat of a limited business plan. You know, how's this business going to function? Just talk with us a little bit about how that's going to work.
Of course. So we seek approval of an off-premises all beverages package store license. And as you know, the Paris currently own the Dunstable General Store and the Urban Gas Station on Pleasant Street. So they propose for the licensed premises to actually be within the same building as the general store, but with a separate entrance and closed off from the general store. The entrance to the package store will actually be facing the other side of the parking lot. The existing infrastructure and current use of their property lends itself nicely to support a package store. So they have 18 parking spaces. The proposed store would have no negative impact on the neighbors, as the existing convenience store generates the same type of traffic as a package store would. And the Paris plan to have the package store business hours coincide with their current gas station hours, which close at 9 p.m. As convenience store owners, Amy and Jay have skills and experience transferable to the management of a package store, like managing inventory and shipments and dealing with age-restricted sales. They currently utilize an ID scanner as part of their store's point of sale system for tobacco sales. The Greeks would utilize the same system in monitoring the sales of alcohol. Though Amy is the proposed manager and will be the one primarily on site, both Amy and Jay are VAT certified, and they will ensure any eventual employees are also trained and certified in alcohol sales. And we're very excited, for the town of Dunstable and for this opportunity. And they really hope to have a package store that the community will be proud of. So I'm happy to take any specific questions on the application if the board has them.
Okay, so before we open this up to the general public, I do have a question.
Yes.
On your application, you're indicating that the store hours are Monday through Sunday, or as permitted by bylaw, opening at 10 a.m. and closing at 11 p.m. Is that what's the plan? Is it going to be concurrent with the existing donut shop store business, or is it going to have separate hours?
It's going to be consistent with the gas and operation hours, which close at 9 p.m.
Okay.
And what time do they open? Is it
The
9?
gas station does open at 6:30.
6 a.m. Gas station opens at 6, but package store probably won't open till 8.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Liquor at 6, 7.
Right. So it couldn't by bylaw open until,
It's not 10.
what is it, 10? 10?
10 a.m. Okay.
And as you all know, it's then by 8:30, quarter to 9. So it makes.
Yeah.
Even financially, it makes no sense to keep it open. I think when we filled out the application, we said, use the standard hours that the state allows.
Yeah.
And is it going to be downstairs?
The ice cream shop.
Yep.
Okay,
This
that's,
way we can keep the kids away.
Mhm.
Stock can be locked up and stuff, so the kids who are working at Dunkin' Donuts don't have easy access.
Sure. And then is there any changes that are going to occur down in that lower level? Could you speak to those?
The lower level basement is finished, has been finished for years.
Okay.
We had to fix it up when we had the flood in 2018.
Mhm.
The only changes would be, we would change the door to make it ADA compliant, whatever the building inspector usually requires, and we have to be a glass door that opens outside. And some of the facade, where we might increase the window, they like ice cream size windows.
Sure.
Or make it bigger for better visibility.
Okay.
In and out.
How about things like paving, lighting?
Yeah,
Better yet, do you have any renderings? It's hard for me to
I
picture it.
I don't have any renderings, but the only facade changes would be, so there used to be a garage door where the ice cream windows are. So I have a contractor lined up, we'll find paperwork with the building inspector once everything's ready. Where we take that piece down and rebuild it with either, whatever cedar shingle type thing or block stucco wall, we paint it to make it look like it fits in the community.
Okay.
And then, we'll be cleaning up the downstairs parking lot. And I know there's a septic system that is rated for trucks and stuff to park, but then there are other restrictions, so we might have to get a specific type of paving and stuff, so I'm working with the building inspector to make sure this is compliant on whatever.
yeah, so there's going to be no expansion of the building itself, the footprint staying the same. So just in your process of checking out the septic system, make sure you touch base with the Conservation Commission, because I know I'm on that board as well, and I know we have.
And that's what I understand, that's why the parking lot has never been paved, we've never had to use
Right,
it,
yeah.
so we don't plow it either normally. And a few years ago, I had a conversation with some of the people, and said, if you want to pay, you have to use some specific type of payment, I don't understand.
Right.
the details, so I'll check with
Yeah,
anybody before we do
okay.
it.
But you may have to go through a permitting process with the Conservation.
Yes.
Okay, just, yeah.
Understood. I think we had to do a burn. a few years
Right.
ago.
Yeah, because there was a lot of runoff coming from there that was getting into the wetland that's across the street. and-
So, yeah, that's understood.
Okay,
And I know we have a pretty broad reach in terms of
Yeah,
uh,
control.
of control, approval, and questions. And my concern is, so I get a lot of coffee. You guys see me at your store all the time. And I know I've been one of those people running up the stairs at night, to get up coffee before they close. So I guess especially in the winter time, like lighting is going to be a really primary concern for me if I'm running in there to grab some drinks or anything, So I'm hopeful that is covered in terms of an aesthetic appeal that isn't too impactful to neighbors, but also provides safety and security for the neighborhood as well as for people and patrons going in and out. So I would have liked to have seen a drawing of that, because that could help explain it to our neighbors and our residents here in town. And I would still love to see.
That is the reason why we are wanting to propose to do it downstairs, so we can utilize that space and, as you said, have the lights and stuff. I try not to have people climb up that because of the
Yeah.
safety thing, and I usually.
Because people are going to climb down too, though.
Yeah.
People just break and they still climb up there.
Yeah.
So that has always been a concern, but we have tried to provide the best.
Yeah.
So whatever the lights and stuff we do, I can get, so I haven't gone and done a bunch of them, right?
Yeah.
Anytime we do those things, it's thousands of dollars. So make progress and then get it done. But any lights and stuff we'll do other than the safety lights, we'll turn everything off at night. Just like,
Mhm.
right now at the gas station, all the lights are off except the lights on the side of the building that the kids working at the end of the shift leave, and then we put the focus light that kind of stays
Yeah.
down in the parking lot, doesn't bleed out too much.
Great.
So we'll use the same things. I think that will all be part of the building inspector permitting and, from what I understand, because electricals and the building inspector will be putting the permit for the.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Would you be opposed to having the blue bins down there? I'm trying to spitball a location away from those. But
Probably 40 times in the last.
41, no?
And I've seen plenty of trash over here.
Yeah.
And the company that collects it is a for-profit business for the most part.
Yeah.
And they've offered to pay us for years. Like, you know,
Okay.
It's gonna be a condition on your license.
That's right. With a well-lit space, and you probably have a security camera, they can't just dump. That's the catch.
You know how many times I had people dumping stuff in the trash?
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I told myself I would ask, so I just checked my own box here.
Quick, do you have experience having liquor stores anywhere else, like New Hampshire or, no? Just curious. Yeah.
We have experience dealing with the IDs and stuff, and I think for liquor store, the newer registers and all that stuff have much more advanced scanners. So
Yeah.
when you get new registers, it will have even tougher scanner.
Right.
My uncle has a store in Lowell, Massachusetts, so I used to call it on it, so I do have some experience.
Good. All right.
And Counselor, you're representing these folks on behalf of this process?
Correct.
Okay. You have anything else?
We have nothing else.
Okay, so what I'd like to do at this point is, first of all, let me be as clear as I can be. This is the town's first ever liquor license. And so back in 2019, town meeting approved the liquor licensing process, and it has wound itself through the state legislature, Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission, town administrator, and Sue Fain have done a fantastic job organizing the details and communicating the information proficiently and on time. And so tonight's hearing is kind of unique for the town. We've had a lot of hearings over the years, and this one is regarding a liquor license, and so it's very different. And one of the components of this is that we, as the board, need to ask for public input prior to this board voting in the license process. And so if we have any members here of the public that would like to speak, please identify yourself by name and come forward and talk with us. So.
Here?
No, that's just
Yeah,
yeah, it's right here.
just speak generally. Yeah.
It's like a Larry microphone, yeah.
And I reside at 250 Pleasant Street, which is the direct abutter to this property.
Yep.
And in doing a little bit of research, I've come up with some things that I think should be reviewed. First, it appears that the majority of the members of an LLC seeking a liquor license must be a resident of the state of Massachusetts. I refer to Exhibit A with reference to what ABCC requires of a salesman's proof
I
residence.
think this copy.
There are some documents of the entity seeking license, and they appear to present Amy Parikh to satisfy the requirement of residence. I refer to exhibits B1, B2, as well as C. It appears the definition of a Massachusetts resident is somewhat in flux as a result of the state's incessant quest for more revenue. And therefore, I think that is a point that needs significant clarification. And I refer to exhibits F and G. Seems to be a fact that Black's Law Dictionary differentiates between a residence and a domicile. I don't know exactly how this affects the whole situation, but there are pictures in there, and I maintain that there is no domicile at 238 Pleasant Street. Then there is the personal matter that the store already impacts my property value. Granting it a liquor license will have a further detrimental effect. I refer to Exhibit E, which is a recent, it's the first page of a recent appraisal of the property where the existence of the store is mentioned. I don't take that to be a positive fact. I think it's a detrimental fact to the property. I'm trying to get clarification on that. So I maintain that Amy does not maintain a domicile at 238 Pleasant Street. We have no clarity on the impact of that as regards the Alcoholic Beverage Commission. Many things are in flux today as far as words are concerned. All they have to do is look at you. And 9 months ago, you were the Board of Selectmen. Today, you're the Select Board. So many things, for various reasons in our society, are in flux. I think that needs clarification exactly what the Board of Alcohol Control Commission expects. It would seem from a salesman, and I have no idea what they mean as a salesman. They want to know the person is residing and lives in the state of Massachusetts, and that would make sense. More than the state DOR looking for money, all they care is that they can send certified mail or whatever. That's all the Secretary of State cares, that they have somebody to receive those types of documents. A liquor store I present as a totally different situation, because criminal activity could occur as a direct result of the liquor store. Somebody could be sold alcohol, drive down the street, kill himself or somebody else, could become criminal mass. I would think that the board wouldn't have to chase around, doesn't want to have to chase around over the countryside to be able to arrest somebody. I think they would let presume arrest somebody in the state of Massachusetts. Given this fact and the amount of research I feel needs to go into this, I would ask that no decision be made, that there be a continuance as a result of tonight's meeting, so that I and anybody else that's not in favor of this can consult with an attorney and we can kind of sort this thing out.
Okay.
Do I understand? Maybe so. Okay. So my name is Erica Flynn, currently reside at 153 off Pond Street, Illinois. I grew up at 250 Pond Street with my parents. Before I get into some statistics and studies, I just want to know, this is a small, nice farm town. And if you put a liquor store, it's not even in the center of town, it's in a more residential area. As far as I'm concerned, that's a blight on the town. And it just brings the value of the town down. That's just my opinion, not a fact, but I just want to state that going forward. I also did some research and found that Richard Scribner, who's a professor of preventative medicine at Louisiana State University Health Science Center, he did some research and found that there was indeed a relationship between the availability of alcohol and problem behaviors. In neighborhoods where alcohol was readily available, the whole distribution of drinkers shifted towards heavier drinking and more permissive norms. And it's kind of what they call a group or neighborhood level effect. So the alcohol outlet density in the neighborhood creates a cultural effect, heavier drinking. Also, studies show that neighborhoods with liquor stores also have higher rates of alcohol-related hospitalizations, drunk driving accidents, and pedestrian injuries. Liquor stores have become places where social controls are weaker, increasing the likelihood of criminal and nuisance activities. Liquor stores are linked to higher levels of crime and violence, as my father stated. study conducted in Los Angeles found that each liquor store in the neighborhood resulted in 3.4 more assaults per year. In New Jersey, research found that the number of liquor stores was the single most important environmental predictor of why some neighborhoods have higher crime than others. Besides those studies and research, you can also it's common sense. We already have, you see it all over social media, pretty much on a regular basis, how people are picking up litter, they're picking up cans, they're picking up wine bottles, they're picking up nits. If we already have that problem, you put a liquor store in town, and that's what it's problem. So you have loitering outside. You mentioned that, it's not gonna have, effect on the kids because it's gonna be in the lower level. I regularly am there as well to buy a smoke. That's horrible, but I do. I'm regularly there to buy cigarettes, and kids are parking their bikes down at that lower level and they're walking up the stairs. So they're gonna be parking their bikes right in front of the liquor store. I don't think any parent in town wants that. And one liquor store, it's proven, one liquor store can destroy a whole neighborhood, depending on how it's run. And I think that, let me just double check. Studies have proven that an availability of a liquor store in a neighborhood contributes to the economic and social disintegration of a neighborhood.
Anyone else that would like to speak?
I'm at 243 Pleasant Street, so I'm a butter too.
And your name?
Sarah Trainer.
Sarah
I want to
Trainer.
say that, first of all, we can all sit on Google and cherry pick statistics that are in our favor of our argument. I don't necessarily think that that is the most constructive argument, especially considering the fact that, kids are already seeing these things. It's not like our town is some bubble where they don't see any alcohol, they don't see anything. I mean, you mentioned that you're in there getting stuff because you smoke. I mean, how is that any worse than them seeing alcohol? Tobacco, lottery tickets, it's all a vice if you want to, put it in simple terms. And I think that's like a little bit blown out of proportion to say, think of the children and we're gonna have all this crime. And yes, of course, it would be naive of us to sit here and say that nothing could change. Yes, that would be more later. There is that chance. There's chances out there being increased crime, but that's not a guarantee. That's not a foolproof thing. And quite honestly, when we are talking about the surrounding towns, Groton, they have a liquor store, Peckerell, they have a liquor store. I don't see them falling into this like horrible, terrible town that's crime ridden and, all the neighbors are fighting and there's all this insanity going on. I'm for the liquor license. I think it should be approved. They're not coming in to like knock down the building and put in some brand new package store. They obviously have well thought out plans of what they want to do and where their, lack of plans are, because they already mentioned they have to talk to, the people about permits and stuff before they make decisions on things like lighting and all of those items. They've been around for a while. They don't cause any problems like their current store. I mean, I've never once had any issues with people there like causing problems or disturbing like late at night and things like that. So I think that some of the things that are being brought up just seem to be a little bit blown out of proportion, especially for our town. And I just, I don't think that they're as big of a concern as some people believe.
Are you set?
Yes, I'm done, thank you.
I would just ask, when you do, whether it is a continuance or whether you do vote, that I would ask you to think to yourself, if you had to live next to it, would you be okay with it?
Mr. Flynn?
Another point I would like to make is, I've had a brief look, and I don't pretend to have studied it, at the market study that was done as part of the downtown district. And wording was, they hope to siphon off traffic from 113. So as far as our neighborhood is concerned, I believe it will increase the traffic from the standpoint that we have a great number of vehicles. We're just a pass-through community, really. I think everybody would agree with that. So people in South Nashua, exit off, whichever, come through town and go down. Well, if that person lives at the Hollis or the other side of Dunstable, they're going to want to, if they want to pick up a six-pack of beer or anything else, they're going to divert down to there because what do they have to go? About a mile, go around, what's the street that goes across it? Brook Street, is it Brook Street? Go down Brook Street and get back onto Main Street. Very little sidetrack from their ride home. So I think it will increase the traffic going by our house, which already I have indicated on several occasions is a serious problem. I don't want any more people going by my house at 60 miles an hour. It's something the town has to deal with. It's something that the state put in a law beginning of the year, the town can deal with it. And have these speed limits lowered. Because we all know the automatic thought is we'll go 10 miles an hour, but over the limit. So having a 45 mile an hour limit means you're going to have 55 mile an hour traffic. So as far as detriment to the neighborhood and kids, again, I refer to the new affordable housing. We're going to have a lot of kids in there, 44 houses. We're going to have at least 44 kids, I would think. And they're going to want whatever, Dunkin' Donuts, bag, or whatever they want there. And they're going to have a lot of children hanging around. If we have a downtown district, and as I understand it, the property of Peter George is approved for retail at the lower level, downtown district would be the place for a liquor store, in my opinion. You want traffic, foot traffic, you want traffic here. I don't understand the whole principle, but that seems to be what the theory is. That's where something like this belongs. Assuming you can get it within 100 feet from the church and the school.
Anybody else? Mr. Cheney?
Alan Shady, Dunstable, Westwood Street. Just a question or comment about signage. If the permit is granted, it makes a big difference in terms of the overall impact, what they have signage, and whether the signs comport with the existing sign bylaw, or whether a variance is sought through the ZBA, as happened in the past. I don't expect that the applicants know right now what they would be doing with the signage, so I wouldn't put them on the spot by saying, are you seeking waivers or whatever? But I would like to get that topic into people's minds in terms of if the permit is granted, that's a major factor in terms of its impact visually for the neighborhood and for the county. Thank you.
1 second. Mrs. Simmons?
Did I hear correctly that you were planning to open at 8 o'clock? No. Oh, what time? 10 o'clock? Okay. Also, now you're doing the cigarettes and the lottery tickets upstairs. What are your plans downstairs as far as that sort of thing is concerned? You know, somebody already mentioned we have a terrible littering problem with those little nips and stuff like that. Are you planning to carry that sort of thing in your shop?
I have already, I don't sell it currently, but I've already picked up a dozen every single day, and in like Monday mornings when we open my plant,
We don't know that.
beer cans.
I just,
We don't, to answer your question, we don't know. Probably not. The goal for us is not, we're not going to attract traffic.
Before you say something, no, that's fine. I just want to, so the select board and their regulations have banned the sale of nips and single serve beer, so they are unable to sell either one of those.
oh, okay. There you go.
That's your answer.
Sorry, I just,
There's your-
didn't mean to interrupt, just wanted to clarify something, that's all. Yeah.
Takes care of it. I think that's all my question for later.
Yeah, I need those things too.
If there's
Excuse me one second. We had a question in the back.
Yeah, Andy Hutchinson, 47 Rock Street. I think there are a couple things that are kind of unclear to me, and I think, Kevin, you were pointing out a little bit, without a development plan of exactly what you're going to do to the area, it's tough to assess the impact. I think if you grant the liquor license, then the development plans come later, lighted signs, I think it's got to be packaged in my mind, right? Is the parking lot going to be paved? Because that's going to get the traffic, and how the traffic works. There are a series of things that are kind of up in the air, right? And as other people pointed out, this is, despite the fact that it's zoned commercial, this is in a residential area. So the lighted signs that went up over the gas pumps were a big thing. And if I'm not mistaken, the approval came after they were installed. So again, I'm, at least certainly after I was aware of it. So I think the concern that I have is, are we approving liquor permit that is then going to creep and grow as the development of the business proceeds? Second, the liquor licensing authority, or Selectmen, has the authority and the responsibility to make a decision based on the needs of the town. Right? If you look at the legal justifications, it's got to be based on the needs of the community, convenience of the community, and the needs of the town. And I'm not sure how that fits in with the overall development plan of town, but I'm not sure that there's a need in Dunstable for this type of business.
To that point, we actually had a town meeting vote, and residents had the opportunity to yay or nay it, which is the most democratic way possible. So need isn't, I understand the point of a need, but we let the residents decide ultimately how they wanted to.
Granting of the license is the need of the community, right? It was overall, the ability to grant the liquor license was given with the authority given to the local licensing authority. That's you guys. So you get to make the decision based on the needs of the community. So you're representing whether this is a need of the community, not a right.
And
but
notes too, right? Notes have a role in that.
So can I kind of clarify on that? I think what you're saying, if I understand it correctly, sir, is the town would yea or nay to grant alcohol licenses, not necessarily to a liquor store. Am I correct?
That's my understanding. It enabled it, but puts the responsibility on the board of selectmen, local licensing authority, to make sure that any approved license is in accordance with the needs of the community.
Excuse me, Mr. Flynn.
Two points. First of all, once and for all, can we clarify in public setting here? I don't believe it's zoned commercial, isn't it? I believe it's residential. That's what's on the property card, R1.
Business one.
It has special permits.
Business one.
I'm not a zoning enforcement officer. I'm not going to speak to what it is. So.
Planning board.
Property card say R1.
Okay.
At one point, it was, I think it was changed, wasn't, I believe, when when Matt Green's property across the street was zoned for business to use, I believe that the
Because it's R1.
gas station, general store property was also zoned business.
special
He was before that.
The one before that,
Then
Yeah,
the other,
he won for a long time.
that's something that to me,
Yeah.
after the zoning board.
Yeah, spots
It is
on
zoned
there.
R1.
I believe that's correct. I believe it's zoned R1, but it's a pre-existing non-conforming use that started before 1986.
So this is an expansion of that, right, and then there been numerous expansions of that whole
That's the
thing.
case, I don't know why.
Doesn't make me very happy, I've spoken at most of the hearings about it. Then the other question I had, why was this a town meeting? Why would this have been a ballot question for a town election? For the simple reason of numbers. The town meeting seemed to draw 125, 150 people. But I believe we have a pretty good record as far as people voting at elections are concerned. So it would seem to me to get the real feel for what the town wants, that should have been a ballot question in the first place. That's just my opinion.
That's not how it would have been structured. It was,
The liquor license process is pretty clear, and it's not, a ballot question is not part of that process. And just so that, so that everybody understands, we've spent a long time, some of us years, working through this, all right? And from the time this got approved at town meeting, which was what the process is in all the municipalities, we were no different from any of the other towns that have voted in liquor licenses. We essentially just follow that process that we were asked. And the licensing process and the formulas that they follow are given to us by ABC, Alcohol Beverages Control Commission. And so they either comply or they don't comply. And so, some of these things that we hear about tonight, although they're genuine concerns, they're not part of the decision-making process. And so,
Whether or not the proponent is a resident of Massachusetts.
okay, that's why I said some of these things may not be a consideration, but and I don't know whether that is one or not. And so we're going to try to answer that for you tonight. But before we do that, is there anyone else with questions that you'd like or comments? Or that's the purpose of this meeting is for this board to take that input from the public into our decision-making process.
Can I just ask a question?
You may.
Was this announced on the town website, or was this announced without being just in the Selectmen minutes? Was the public hearing announced via email on the Dunstable email alias? Was it announced?
It's posted on the town website and in the lobby for the open meeting law.
Right, but that's not something people check regularly, and considering it's a sort of a large impact on the town, I think that most residents would want to have a.
it met the legal requirements of what is needed
For the public hearing,
hearing.
there's also advertising.
Yes, it was also in Wilson, posted in Wilson this year.
And what was the impetus to even want liquor licenses in town? I don't understand that.
Someone
Yeah,
had requested it be put on
10-minute ride.
an agenda. There was a request to the select board that was to be put on an annual town warrant.
By
I think there were several residents of the town that brought that forward to us. It's been hashed around pretty good over the years, and it's.
It initially started when there was someone who used to live at the house
Next door.
who wanted to open a restaurant in the barn. That started the initial process of that years ago. And he ended up selling the property because there was no progress made. And he went on to a different venture. So.
Hang on, Mr. Simmons. Alan?
Yeah, a trip down memory lane, with regard to Mr. Flynn's comment, is absolutely right. Years ago, every 5 years, there would be an item on the ballot asking whether the town should go away. And every year that it was on the ballot for, 20, 50 years, I remember, the town resoundingly voted no. This time around, I
yes.
suspect, by the way, that if it had been on the ballot, the town would have voted yes. But nonetheless, he has a point in terms of history.
And I believe that the alcohol control commission has addressed
I
that.
don't know that, but it's interesting. The other thing is that, and I direct this to the town administrator, and I may well be misremembering, but of course, the property was originally run as a business by Dick Snell with his ski shop. And I don't know what the status of that was, but I seem to remember, and I have an excellent memory, although it's short. I seem to remember that there was some kind of official action that zoned it business.
Yeah.
You know?
I recall there was some sort of special permit that was related to.
Yeah, one of the things can be made.
No, I looked at, and you may very well be right. Today I looked at the zoning map, the latest one that you sent me a little while ago.
Yeah.
And it read to me that it was zoned R1. Maybe I read it incorrectly.
There have been many mistakes made with regard to that. For example, the Peter Georgia property has always been two-family zone since 1947, when the zoning came in. They spot zoned half a dozen places that were multifamily, and they were multifamily. It was part of zoning. But the town went ahead and had a ZBA meeting to grant permission for it to be a two-family house. It already was. So people make mistakes. And that's why sometimes institutional memory is helpful.
Yeah, and you may be correct.
You're right.
You may be correct.
I've asked the clerk, town clerk, she has assembled a package on the property for going back to when it was just a lot, and then the fact that Mr. Snell erected a ski shop. And the point that I believe that came in front of the town, because let's face it, we were a different town in the 70s. And we had a lot of people operating businesses, and the town wanted to get control of that. And then when Mr. Snell died, I guess the property was for sale. I don't recall seeing this for sale sign, but Jim Howley, I believe, went to see.
Yeah.
Was it Priscilla Snell? Was that her first name? I guess the process, according to what the clerk is trying to sort out, was that Howley must have asked her to apply for the special permit to have the general store. I remember meetings and a discussion because we had a general store here next to the police station, now Farmers Cafe, whatever. And he was at the meeting. He obviously didn't want it. It was going to impact his business and eventually put him out of business. I thought Jim Howley had initiated that. Apparently, it was initiated, maybe it was initiated by him, but through the current owner. And so a special permit, I believe, was given. I mean, a lot of special permits were given. I was given a special permit under very strict conditions of operating a plumbing company. Basically, nobody had to know I had a plumbing company. Just a big red building. Everything was off-site because of the type of work we did. So that's the disturbing part about it is I didn't buy that land to have commercial next to it. It just developed. I'm a live and let live type of guy, so when Dick Snell put the building up and it starts, ski shop stuff, didn't, like I said, live and let live. But it shows what happens, and I can recall a resident down on Broad Road somewhere, kind of an odd-shaped lot, and he wanted a variance because he wanted to put in a deck, but unfortunately with the funny lot line, he was going to not be in compliance with the setbacks with that deck. And the board at that time said to him, if we grant you this variance, we'll have to grant other people similar variances. Once you open up the bottle, the genie's out. So I think it's a great deal, whether it's been approved or not by the town, I believe if you research, you will find for a town to switch from dry to wet or vice versa, there are some particular requirements on that. I believe the ballot, the Alcohol Commission said that there were various ways, and they weren't familiar with the exact situation. So getting information out of some of these state boards is like pulling teeth. So it's a big step, and everybody's got rights, but somebody's rights and somebody's property values are going to go down. And I think that has to be weighed against whatever benefit there is. If you're trying to make a downtown, then you've got another benefit. You've got a public benefit. There's one more reason for people to stop. You track the traffic off of 113. A lot to think about.
Anyone else with any comments or questions? Mrs. Simmons?
The liquor thing kind of got going when we started talking about the town center district and trying to encourage maybe a restaurant, encourage maybe a little tavern or something like that. And originally, and in fact, I believe at town meeting, I proposed that it only be, we only allow for a pouring license. Okay. Unfortunately, the town meeting voted overwhelmingly to allow retail liquor stores. So, for what that's worth.
Okay, Counselor?
Yes, thank you. So to Mr. Flynn's first point, Amy Three is a resident of Massachusetts. I don't know what information he just passed along, but included in our application is a copy of Ms. Three's license. She is a Massachusetts resident, and we tested for the fact that she is a Massachusetts resident. Second, there's no loss to value for the abutting neighbors where they live next to a gas station. Having a liquor store adjacent to this gas station is not going to reduce the property value. We're not here to litigate or discuss whether or not Dunstable is allowed to have this meeting and whether they're allowed to vote on this liquor license. That's already been decided. Whether the final number of licenses you're able to give out should or should not go to this couple. And the reality is the infrastructure's there. It's, I think, the perfect location. And I appreciate the neighboring abutters who, agreed that this would not bother them here. This is not opening Pandora's box, like I said. There is only so many that can go out, and if not here, where? Let's see if there's any other comments. Were there any questions that you would like addressed that were raised?
So the residence thing, and so she's a resident of Massachusetts, not Dunstable specifically,
No, I'm done.
of Dunstable.
Yes. I'll also, can I answer the question?
I thought when you were saying where you lived, it was Nashville.
He lives in Nashville.
Mr. Gray's license is in New Hampshire license, and he lives in Nashville.
Where does she reside?
She lives at 238 Pleasant Street in the apartment building. Yeah. And is it board member Kevin, to your point, and someone else in the gallery who mentioned? Apologies.
I'll be Kevin, it's all right.
So to your point about dimensions and maybe a larger project proposal, the ABCC does not require more than a submittal of a floor plan, which is what we did. And if we had known that that would have been helpful to the board, we would have been happy to have them prepared tonight. And I hope that you won't hold that against us, and that in the future, if that's something that this license commission would like to see, obviously you can add it to the requirements.
Hang on one second.
Can I say something?
Yes.
So, Dunstable has very strict rules on what you can and cannot do. I worked with Dana over the years, and Dana is by the book. I remember when Farmhouse Cafe was about to open and the grandfather was about to expire, we had to come to the hearing, we had to do a hearing because Dana said it is what we're supposed to do. So we'll follow all the rules and regulations that are required by the town, which is what the purpose is, right? Like you mentioned, I have to go to Conservation Commission to make sure we don't cause runoff into the wetlands or whether there's electrical thing, signage, we will comply with the signage. There was a question about the signage at the pump was turned on before he was aware of it. Just a clarification, we had filed with zoning board of appeals 6 or 8 months before the sign went up, but because of COVID, none of the meetings were being done. So we didn't turn on any of the signs that were not compliant till we got approved. So we turned the red ring around it and all that stuff was turned on after we had approval. The sign guys came back and moved it all back. So we will follow all the processes that the town has, whether it's going to 3 different commissions or inspections to get permission, we'll follow all that.
Is it our role to determine what the sign looks like as part of the planning of the
No. It's not. Not at all.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to anyway, but yeah.
Mr. Flynn.
Once first of all, unless the attorney has an appraiser's license, I would say that that's just another reason that we need to delay this, that type of information, because I am trying to contact the person that made the appraisal that I have for the front page of the capital. That's the sort of input we need and find out factually, not opinion-wise, whether or not this is going to affect property values in the immediate vicinity of the store. And then DOR has had, I guess, as I can near figure out, we haven't had much time, that's 14 days. The letter to abutters went out on, I believe it was mailed the 3rd. I have the envelope. I tried to get it because it was certified, and I was on my way out of town for a long weekend. And the post office wouldn't open up. I had an appointment, doctor's appointment. So I didn't get this thing until Tuesday, Tuesday after the 3rd. It just hasn't been enough time for anybody to prepare responses. They've had months, I believe, that the LLC was formed May 5th. They've had a lot of time. You know, people in the neighborhood haven't had any time. I think it's critical to make a proper decision. For the town to make a proper decision on whether or not this should be done. What DOR wants is a big rope around everybody's neck. If you read the requirements that I presented, I haven't concealed anything. They want to be able to, if you move out of town, there's a talk show host. It's all the time. He spends 183 days out of this state because he doesn't want to pay the income taxes. So that whole thing is directed to capturing that income. It's nothing to do with licensing. This is a whole different issue. I think that we need some sort of legal input, whether there are, for this state or other states, whether there's any precedent for this sort of thing, because they don't live
So
She lives here.
Yeah, so there's a driver's license in the application. There's a Massachusetts issued driver's license to the applicant. So
And if you look at the pictures I've got a lot more pictures than the few I presented. And I.
Hold on a second.
I hear you, sir, but I mean, by definition, if the state of Massachusetts gives you a driver's license, you are a resident of the state. I can't argue that. Like, it is what it is. I mean, you just, but again, the state gives you a driver's license. I'm just not, I don't think that's where I would spend my energy asking questions if I'm being, if you have a driver's license that says you're a Massachusetts resident, you are in fact a resident.
I think it goes, and I think that legally, we have something to say about that. Taxes, there's all kinds of things that need to be dealt with, just having a driver's license.
Yeah, but
It's a
to
legal
Karen's
form of
point,
ID.
It's a legal
driver's
form of
license
ID.
establishes residency.
You ask the police chief, a driver's license is a legal form of ID. I mean, it is what it is. Like, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to make sure it's crystal clear.
And I would ask the question, why would you want to have offended legal answers?
Hold on a minute. Point of order here. One discussion at a time.
Carol, can you guys?
So if I could say, to Mr. Flynn's point, this license commission is not issuing a license today. They're issuing a recommendation to the Alcohol Beverages and Control Commission of whether or not this license should be issued. And the ABCC is going to comb through this application and answer all of the questions that you have.
Did you have a comment?
Yes, I was just gonna say, we can sit here all day and debate about where someone lives and all these things, but my assumption is that we're here to determine, or to discuss the actual liquor license approval. As far as I'm concerned, if we're talking about legalities, she's got the license. I think what's more important is directing our energies, towards the actual liquor license and not whether or not someone's license constitutes the legal, that's just insane to me.
I think, as the attorney spoke, that this is our recommendation to put forward to the ABCC. A lot of things that I feel that have been brought up tonight are things that would be addressed by other boards and departments, such as the sign being proper. We could probably put in a recommendation that the sign bylaw be followed. We would like to see this, we don't want flashing neon. They've already stated they want to keep it in line with the country concept like the store sign is. I wouldn't expect you'd want something, really divergent from that. Conservation issues, the parking lot, that's not something that this liquor license is going to review. And I don't think that we would either approve or deny based on whether or not that area is paved. You spoke about the needs of the town. Well, when the town voted overwhelmingly to approve the liquor license and Dunstable becoming a wet town, that essentially now becomes a need of the select board to start to make something happen with this. And when an application comes before us, it's something we have to consider seriously. Also, there's been a big request by many residents to have more businesses in town, and this happens to be one of the ones, is the first ones that's come before us under this concept. Does the town need a flower shop? I don't know, but we all certainly like it, and it's great, and it's very busy, and that's a business in town. To say whether or not one business is needed versus another business, I'm not sure if that's our main priority to discuss. I may be wrong, but a business is business, whether you're selling cigarettes or coffee or
Flowers.
flowers or beer. they're all legal products in this town and in this state. So, yeah.
Some add value, some take away.
So those are my thoughts right now, but.
Karen?
Yeah, I don't really disagree with what Leah stated. I actually hadn't even put it in that sort of simplistic form in terms of you could have a farmhouse cafe, you could have a flower store, you could have someone selling honey on the side of the road. Like, who are we to, I'm not really here to judge the needs of the town, but I think if we're looking to issue a license to go before the ABCC, I think our charge is to do it in the best interests of the residents that have sought out for these businesses to be added to the town. And so long as it complies with the regulations that ABCC has, then we either authorize or not authorize our authority to approve it.
Can I ask a question?
You may.
So if someone in your neighborhood on Alexander Way decided they wanted to open a liquor store, would you be okay with it?
If it was,
Really ask yourself truly if you would be okay with that.
so I've actually had this deep conversation with many of my neighbors, and when it was marijuana was being discussed, there was a large, because there was a potential that we could have had a marijuana wholesale, or, what do they call those things? Cultivation.
Grower.
Oh, yeah.
in one of the vacant lots. And I tossed and turned on the idea, but if someone bought it and got all the approval, shame on me. Like, that's my fault, like for either picking a bad neighborhood, which is really a hard way to look at it. But if someone wants to pursue their goals and their business, I can't get in that way.
You can't, there's a place for it.
Sure, but if it's,
The center of town makes more sense than residential area.
but if it's permitted and approved by the town and by the residents, then
I think
that's it.
If you were to ask me this question, where I live right now, I would honestly say no, I would not like it next door to me. However, next door to you already is an established business with a gas station, with a Dunkin' Donuts that is selling cigarettes that require a license. There's already a well-established business that has a significant amount of traffic. And again, I can't see that this is going to be a very small liquor store. Most people are still going to go to Nashua. I mean.
You said it was going to be a small ski shop, and my understanding, and this is changing, we can tap your memory. My understanding is that the Snell started operating that, and again, I could be completely wrong. The Snell started operating that ski shop before they had the necessary permits, and we came into after that.
I was 6, I don't recall that.
That's not what we're discussing.
Residential neighborhood, and they started operating business before they had the permits.
Right, but now it is.
Who are we, seriously?
Okay, hold on a minute. Hold on a second. Point of order here, please.
Who are you? You don't live here.
Hang on.
I grew up here. And
What?
You just said gentlemen.
No, I don't. Hold on a minute, though, all right? That's, I appreciate the discussion, but, there's a time and place for that sort of stuff, and I'd like for that.
What is the problem with delaying this 30 days?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What is the issue with delaying this 30 days so that more input can be done?
Yeah, see, the only problem with what you're saying is that, and if you listen to my colleagues on the board, is that there is a defined process by this license to be approved. They've met all that criteria. And they've done an exceptional job at providing the documents that they need to get this license. And unless, Mr. Flynn, believe me, we're all sympathetic towards your discussion, and I appreciate all the time and the effort that you spent collecting all this information, all right? It's not without regard. It is regard, but unfortunately, it's not part of the decision-making process. And so, at this point, there's got to be some valid reason, if she clearly has a Massachusetts driver's license, which they don't give to people who don't live in the state.
So they did live in the state once, so it's just a question of getting it renewed.
Yeah, but, she's got that, and they've given us copies of it, and so, we don't have the jurisdiction here to just say, sorry, guys, we're gonna do this another time, because the information that they've provided through council as well as through, was a process that they had to go through with the police department, the building inspector, the fire chief, they all weighed into this thing, and they've all signed off on it. And so at this point, the decision here is to listen to valid input from the town that addresses specific license irregularities or improprieties that would govern or require us to move this to some other time. But the purpose of tonight's meeting is to have a public hearing, listen to that information, and move this forward. But nothing that we've gotten here tonight is of any substance that would cause us to delay this thing. I know that's not what you want to hear, but that's the reality is where we're at. These folks have met all the criteria that was required of them to get this license. And they've done a great job. They've done a fantastic job at it. There's information here that exceeds what we needed. Any other questions from anybody else in the public? Counselor?
No, I will just say I've represented many clients in license hearings and, for Dunstable, for this to be the first time in your process, you have one of the most organized processes in order to get the application forward, and you did a fantastic job at the beginning.
Okay.
Thank you, Susan.
We have no other input. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, so there's a draft motion for us. I'll move to approve the application as presented for Dunstable Liquor LLC, DBA Dunstable Country Liquors at 238 Pleasant Street for a Section 15 off-premise all alcohol license manager, Ami Parikh, with hours of operation from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Sunday, subject to approval from the ABCC Alcohol Bureau of Control Commission, receipt of all applicable sign-offs and permits, all fees paid, and query approval.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So
Motion carries.
this puts it forward to the ABCC.
It takes
which-
it into the next step.
And then it will get thoroughly scrutinized through them. And then it would come back to us. And there's another step for us after that, or not?
So they're also gonna need to, any work that you need to do, and, you're gonna have to go through several other processes of, pulling building permits and getting sign permits and all that stuff. So there will be those things that are happening as well. Yep.
Okay, and so with that, we'll close the public hearing. Continuing or opening the select board general business meeting. I would ask for my colleagues, I would like to take item 5, which is the PFAS discussion, out of sequence and bring that forward so that the town manager from Groton and Groton's chair of the FinCom don't have to sit and listen to us read meeting minutes and all our other minutes, unless you'd like to.
We're having so much fun here.
We're having a lot of fun.
What an evolution.
Can we have a motion to move that forward?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so item 5 is going to be a discussion with the town of Groton regarding remediation of PFAS at the Groton Dunstable High School. And do you want to run through that first?
Do you want me to go through it quick?
Yeah, so Jason has
I'll
a
be
deck, some slides that we're gonna,
I read
that are
it.
talking points. So,
Okay, so I'm gonna go through this real quick. I sent this to you in advance of the meeting, so everyone had a chance to review it. But, so really quick, the issue, we all know at the high school, there's contaminated well, PFAS contaminated wells. You see the concentrations up there far, far, far beyond what is appropriate. And we know, based on Mass DEP findings, that the cause of the contamination was firefighting foam from the Groton Fire Department during construction of a track on site in 2003. Can move on to the next slide. So we also know that right now Mass DEP has regulations in place that puts a threshold of 20. What is that? I forget. What's NGL? I forget.
Nanograms per liter.
For 6 PFAS contaminants. The EPA at the federal level has proposed new regulations, EAB, that go from 20 to 4 nanograms per liter. And which parts per trillion. And you'll see that some of the PFAS contaminants between DEP and EPA, the ones that are regulated, actually vary slightly. We can go on to the next slide. So on the 2nd of March, DEP issued a notice of responsibility to the school district on a temporary basis. Bottled water is being used at the high school and some surrounding properties. And there's a point of entry treatment system installed at one of the homes. The notice of responsibility also required the point of entry treatment systems at all residents, PFAS levels over 20. And the deadline to get back to DEP is the 31st of January 2024 with some sort of plan for a solution. So we're going to go through kind of the process we followed a little bit, but before we do that, these are some of the options that we have considered in our discussions. And you know most of this, so I'm not going to go into great detail. But there was discussion about making a connection from 113 down Groton Street to Kemp Street to the high school, also to North and Jersey from Kemp. There's discussion about bringing water from Pepperell, and then there's discussion bringing water from Groton. And those are essentially the routes that we take to get the water there. So there's been a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions, and I picked this on purpose because that's kind of how the process has gone.
Oh my God, that's excellent.
Yeah. So it's been a long, winding road during this process, and I only started in March because I'm new to this. I know the conversations have been going on long before March, but so I have 3 slides like this. One is we've been having, I'm not going to go one by one, but we've been having regional meetings with the school district, with the town of Groton, and in some cases, the town of Pepperell since March, basically. That's how long I've been involved in it. I know they've been going on longer than that. And that's right. So we have been kind of working together with all stakeholders. The water boards of each community, the Board of Health have been involved, select board members, town officials, employees, etc., to try to work together to build consensus around what the best solution is to this project, to this problem. We've looked at cost, we've looked at timetables, we've looked at permitting, we've looked at a whole variety of factors to do our best to come to the best solution to this problem. Here are the meetings that the Select Board in Dunstable have had. As you know, on the 27th of April, the Select Board in Dunstable took an official position to support I'll call it the regional project that includes the town of Pepperell. And soon after the 27th, sent a letter to the town of Groton notifying them of that. So the Groton Select Board, they've had a similar process. You'll see, the Groton Select Board has actually taken 4 or 5 votes on this and has actually kind of changed their position several times on this as the process has moved forward. I'm not going to go through each one, but they've taken positions in support of the regional solution. They've taken positions in votes in support of the Groton-only solution. And just recently, the most recent vote was on the 31st of July. Town manager, who is here tonight, recommended the regional solution, including the town of Pepperell. The select board voted against that and voted in favor. I think it was a 3-2 vote for the Groton-only project. So this analysis of the permitting for each of these options essentially came directly from Mass DEP. So it was invented and drafted by the DEP. I'm not going to go into great detail on these, but I think the high level important point to this is that all options that were being considered have approximately an estimated 2-year permitting process, except for one. You can go on the next slide. And that is the Pepperell Groton Dunstable solution, which brings water from Pepperell, Jersey Street to the high school, down Kemp, down Groton to Chicopee Row, and then to the high school that way. That, because it's in the same watershed, that does not require MIPA, does not require DCR, Water Management Act, does not include Mass DEP. It's literally local COMCOM approvals, and you can go and start construction. The Groton project, which the town of Groton has, like I said, has come out and officially supported. You see up there is a 2-year process. It includes MIPA, it includes DCR and the Water Management Act, and includes Water Resource Commission and DEP.
So that solution would only address the houses in Dunstable. This wouldn't be tying into the Dunstable water system at all, correct?
The Groton project, yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
it
it
only
would be
says Dunstable because
so
there are some houses in town that are
part of
affected
the-
by it.
Yeah, so part of the
Yeah.
part of the mitigation for this problem needs to be solving the problem of those 15-ish residents.
Right.
So, what is it? 30 residents. So part of this project needs to be, and if it's a Groton only solution, the town of Dunstable will need to allow the town of Groton to construct in our roads.
30 residents in Dunstable or Dunstable and Groton?
In
30.
in Dunstable.
Okay.
So it will require us essentially allowing the town of Groton to come into Dunstable and constructing the water main and bringing water from Groton to Kemp Street. Yeah.
Just correct one thing on your.
Sure, please.
On the 2-year, the MEPA process and significant interbasin transfer.
Mhm.
Right now, there's 108,000 gallons a day set aside for the Lost Lake Sewer Project that we petitioned the state for several years ago. We're not pursuing it. So we have a letter before the DEP right now, DCR, to get rid of that 108,000. Which means right now we have over 40,000 gallons going out of Groton, and that's the air for the Four Corners district. If we get rid of that 108,000 and we do the Kemp Street area of Dunstable, that's another 33,000, which will keep us under the level of significance. We do not need to go through a mutual review and get a significant interbasin transfer. So that cuts that 2-year process down significantly. So that's something we were looking at, and it's something that's up right now. I apologize.
No, please.
Fees for the dump 30 houses.
So that's not, it's not gonna take 2
No, sure.
years to drop.
Rate payers.
This this is, I'm
It was
just,
about 3 months.
this is, what is up there right
That
now
came from the DEP.
came from the DEP, and it reflects a conversation I had as recently as last Thursday. So that's all, I'm just passing along the information I got from DEP.
I just wanted to let you know, we've had conversations where we've sent in a letter to get rid of that 108,000 gallons. If that 108,000
I
gallons is
understand.
still on the books,
Yeah, yeah.
then that's 100% correct.
And it may, we don't know how easy it's, I mean, you don't know how easy it's gonna be to accomplish that, either.
Correct.
So the cost of the projects. So I don't think you'd argue that the Pepperell project is easier to permit, period, end of
100%
story.
agree with you.
So the Pepperell project is easier to permit. The Pepperell project is much less to implement. So you see here, these are the cost differences to the town of Dunstable. The conservative estimate is 8.5. I think it's a conservative estimate. It's a little under, just shy of $2 million to the town. The estimate is 65 annualized over 30 years. Latest estimate for the Groton solution is slightly under 13. That's dropped because they've done some value engineering, I'd say, to the project, which is they've been able to drop the initial estimate from 16.7 to 12.8. And just using, for both of the contributions, just using the 77-23 split that we paid to the school district, it's about $1 million more to the town of Dunstable, which I think you'll be talking about in some degree.
That's
The
what
cost, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. You can go. So I have focused on the Pepperell project because at this very moment, that is the position of the select board. So, and because of that, I have pointed out the summary of benefits for that project, and we just went over them. It's much quicker to permit, it's cheaper to implement, and it also ties in Pepperell for the town of Dunstable, which is a benefit because we have an existing relationship with the town of Pepperell. They currently manage our water system, and prior to me being here, there have been discussions, John, you could speak to this better than me, around further developing and growing that relationship so that we actually make physical connections between the town of Dunstable and the town of Pepperell. It should be noted, town of Pepperell has their own PFAS issue. I know you all know that, but they have their own PFAS issue. One of their wells is perfect, or as close to perfect as you're going to get, and one of their wells in operation is, I think it's ranged from 8 to 16 in PFAS levels. So while it's under the Mass DEP current standards, it would not, as it's currently comprised, meet the new EPA standards. They do have a project in the pipeline now to put a PFAS filtration system at their Jersey Street wells, which is where the problem's at. And so from a long-term perspective, that's not going to be a problem. Short-term though, those are the levels that they're currently carrying.
Yeah.
So, so next steps, the board has taken a position on what project to support. The board needs to kind of consider that and decide how we want to move forward. We also have a draft intermunicipal agreement to share town council with Groton on the project. At the time, we were lockstep in moving all, growing in the same direction on the regional solution. So it made perfect sense to share town council because there was literally no disagreement on how we were going to move forward. That has changed. The landscape has changed because the select board took a vote for the Groton only project. So that's something to consider when we're considering whether or not to share town council to negotiate these other deals. We do need to determine the cost sharing of the project. So as you can see, in town of Groton, officials can speak far better to this than I can. The Groton-only project is water infrastructure essentially entirely in the town of Groton. So the question is, should the cost sharing be the same as it would be for the other project? But that's something that we would need some sort of intermunicipal agreement to come to terms on what the financial model would be. And then lastly, there needs to be some agreement from the town on allowing town of Groton, town of Pepperell, somebody to bring clean water into the town of Dunstable for those 30 residences. If there is water coming from outside of the town. Sorry, I ran through that pretty quickly, but that's kind of a rough overview of where we're at, and grateful and thankful for town of Groton being here tonight to shed some light on the town of Groton.
So,
I'm happy to be
I'm sure you are. So we have with us Mark Haddad and Bud Robinson. Bud is chair of the Groton FinCom, and Mark is the town manager, as a matter of record. So,
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I appreciate you allowing us to be here. I think Jason gave you a very good summary of the process. I love
the org chart? It's a Polish org chart.
So, a couple of things. I did clarify the permitting process for the Groton option. In terms of how this benefits Dunstable and Groton, it is the Groton Dunstable Regional High School is the primary focus of this. And our job is to get clean water, drinking water to the high school and for irrigation purposes. So the majority of whatever we did in Pepperell or through Groton is to get water to the high school. In addition to that, we need to solve the problem of those 30 to 40 Dunstable residences that need. Right now, the school district is paying between $35,000 and $55,000 a year for testing and bottled water to those properties. They may have to pay more because some of the residents have already said they don't want the bottled water anymore, and they have to put in filtration systems at a very expensive cost in some of the homes in Dunstable. So the whole goal here is to try
But
to
the district paid for those.
The district absolutely, well,
Absolutely.
you paid 23%?
We did. Absolutely.
So the job that we want to get right now is to get this resolved as quickly as possible. I want to first of all apologize for all of the processes, and this has just been an ongoing thing that we've been doing our best to try to resolve to everybody's best interest. And I know Bud is here tonight to talk about why we made the decision, the select board made the decision. As Jason said, I recommended the regional option. I negotiated that in good faith with Jason and with Andrew. Over Pepper, we had some really good meetings and good discussions to get that done. At the end of the day, my board voted against the recommendation. That said, the cost share that Jason put up on the screen is probably the highest amount for either option, because we've applied for SRF funding, there's loan forgiveness, there's zero interest loans and things like that. We think the price will be less. We're going to design this to do our best job to keep the price down as much as possible. But based on those numbers, one of the things that happened at the select board meeting is that our water commissioners, because they will be getting revenue for this project from the high school and from the Dunstable residences, they said that they would contribute $1 million towards the project.
Who did?
The Groton Water Commission.
Okay.
So they're going to pay $1 million of the solution, the Groton solution. And that $1 million translates to about $35,000 a year in debt service payments. So when the select board made their decision to go with the Groton option, again, Bud will go into the reasons for that. I went back and I said, well, one of the things we have to do is we've got to sort of keep Dunstable in mind, keep Dunstable whole. We don't want Dunstable spending more money than they would in a project. So I went to the select board last night and I said, well, if we're going to do this, it would probably make sense that the $1 million difference between the Groton option and the Pepperell option, Pepperell-Groton option, for Dunstable, to keep Dunstable whole at $65,000, that $1 million should be used to offset the increased cost to Dunstable. So the select board in Groton last night voted 5-0 unanimously to take that $1 million and use whatever debt service payment to keep Dunstable at a maximum cost of $65,000 towards this. And if we negotiate an intermunicipal agreement, that's what we would do. So at the end of the day, whether it's the Pepperell Groton option or the Groton Dunstable option, the cost of Dunstable is the same. And there are advantages to both Groton and Dunstable with the Groton option. And I think like, I asked you, please talk about that.
Okay, so.
Can I ask one question first?
Please.
Yeah, so aren't our ratepayers still going to pay back the water system and our participation within the regional school district?
Correct.
Okay.
And the rates in Groton right now are less than the Pepperell rates. And so that's a benefit to the Groton Dunstable High School and to the Dunstable residents, that the water rates are less than in Groton right now. And once Pepperell, and this is one of the things we talked about, once Pepperell goes through the plant upgrade, the ratepayers would end up paying that cost. So their rates will probably increase as will Groton's, but I still think the Groton rates will stay less than the Pepperell rates. And that's one of the things that we talked about as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
So when we look at this, I want to share the thoughts on the process went through, because, as a finance person, we usually would go for the lower cost, and that's what finance people do. Finance, when you buy a police cruiser, you buy a dump truck or whatever, the lowest cost matters. In this case, what we came up with in the thought process was, there was more than just cost involved in this, because we prefer the Groton solution, and why we believe the spending, Groton is going to cost an additional $25 a year to implement the Groton solution for the Groton taxpayers. So, not a month. So when we looked at it, we said $25 a month is a lot, but $25 a year on the rate for the Groton Dunstable students and citizens, we thought it was better option. And the reason is, to us, it was simple. It was our water for our children being Dunstable and Groton, and our citizens. And we know that Groton and Dunstable, first of all, have good water, and we know that they both have good water departments. And in addition, the additional water for Groton and Dunstable students and residents, we believe is best handled by Groton water. Today, 71% of the students in Groton and Dunstable supplied by Groton and Dunstable water. And with the Groton solution, there would be 100% of the water would be supplied by the Groton and Dunstable water departments. In 30 years, this is going to be a water form. 30 years is a long time. And we know that things in the future are going to change. They're going to be, high school's going to be more fire protection. There's going to be other issues that come up. And we believe that being in control of the process is better for Groton and Dunstable, because the unknowns will be under control of Groton. Groton and Dunstable students are in all the schools in the high school, and we believe that we can control the flow, the issues that come up better than having somebody else, a third party, dealing with the issues. So most importantly, we want the health and safety of our Groton Dunstable children and our Groton Dunstable citizens to be in control of our water department and our PFAS controls, not a third party. We believe that us controlling the water going into the school and into the residents of Dunstable are better served by us being in control. Again, it's our kids that are going to be dealing with it. So we believe the $25 a year that our citizens, our Groton citizens are going to pay. Dunstable's going to pay nothing more than they're already expected to pay for Pepperell. But we feel Dunstable is also better served by us serving our kids. We have a bigger stake in this project than Pepperell does. They're our children. We believe paying a little more taxes per year and having our people control the process and all the unknowns that are going to happen, and they are going to happen, we will deal with them better than a third party. So we ended up voting for the Groton solution, even though it costs the taxpayers a little more, because of the fact control and the kids and citizens of Dunstable, the 25 residents, will be better served by us running the project.
So controlled by Groton, not Dunstable.
Pardon?
By Groton, not Dunstable.
No, the project is run, we believe to be run by Pepperell or Groton. Dunstable will be part of the process. But it's also, in one case, it's Pepperell, Groton, Dunstable. In the other case, it's Groton Dunstable. There's two, and the kids are not from Pepperell, Groton Dunstable, the kids are Groton Dunstable. And if it's not gonna cost Dunstable any more money to go into the project with Groton, we're already into the school together, we're already into other things together. We felt that having us control it, because we have a bigger stake in this thing, as you do. It's our children, it's our health and safety. We felt that us controlling it, we have good systems, Dunstable has good systems. But we felt that because we controlled it, and we were gonna be willing to pay, our town was gonna be willing to pay more for this, to stay in control, to keep the good water going in there, and to have the ability to move faster than three towns involved is more difficult than 2 zones. It's just a matter of the way it works. 2 is easy to work with. So we felt that was a major reason, was just faster. There are gonna be more issues in the future. 30 years is a long time. We felt that we've been in the school with you for 40 years, 50 years. So we felt we could move much quicker in the school for, again, our kids to get this done better. And we're willing to put $1 million into the system in order to have Dunstable stay whole, because we felt for us 2 towns, it's a better solution.
Did that $1 million offer just come up recently? I mean, because everyone was on board to the
Yeah.
previous plan, and now it's,
July 31st, when we went to the select board meeting, I was making a presentation to the select board, the water commission said they looked at the numbers, they looked at what the revenue potential was, and they wanted to participate in the cost share of this project, and they put the $1 million on the table at that time. Then last night, I went back to the select board, I said, okay, that $1 million is on the table, which by the way was reiterated to me today by the water commission. That $1 million, I said, it's gotta go to offset the Dunstable cost, because we should keep Dunstable at the $65,000 number. And that's what we wanna do, on top of all the things that I've raised in terms of the management of the project. But just please keep in mind, working with Jason, working with Andrew, we came up with what we thought was the solution. We made that recommendation, and there were other factors that the Groton Select Board took into consideration in making their decision. So I'm here tonight to relay that to you. I had a conversation with Ron this afternoon, I didn't know I was coming today. And he said, we ruffled some feathers, and I want to apologize for that, I didn't mean to. This was a lot of moving pieces on this project, but I think at the end of the day, Bud and I are here tonight to offer a solution to Dunstable that we think manages this project, keeps Dunstable whole at the number that was talked about, which you supported, and allows us to move forward with this project. And we've already done the engineering, we've already done a lot of preliminary engineering on this project that Groton's paid for. Not asking Dunstable to participate in that at all. We've started the process of design, so we're a little bit more ahead of the game in design on this project than we would be on the Pepperell line. And by the way, part of the solution that Pepperell brought Dunstable is our engineer was going to do the work for Pepperell too. So we were it's the same engineer. The environmental practice is going to do the work for that solution, and they're doing the work for this solution. Pepperell was going to allow us to use our engineer. Groton still going to manage the project from Pepperell. As you'll recall, Jason.
No, that's right.
So I'm here tonight to answer more questions, and I'm hoping that you tonight vote to authorize and introduce the agreement, because a lot of things have to be worked out legally. Brian Falk is the best, and we want to be able to utilize Brian in this process. But Brian can't advise Jason or me unless you agree to allow that to happen. Last night, the Groton Select Board voted unanimously to enter into an initial agreement with you for legal services. And it's on the school district's agenda. I spoke to the school committee chair today. It's on your agenda for August 30th. But Brian can get started if you agree with the Groton board, because the Groton School District's not yet a client. So he'll still be able to work with us moving this forward if you allow. So again, I really appreciate the time and allowing me to be here, but to be here tonight to talk about this.
where does this put Pepperell? It's just like kicking them to the curb with their problem at this point.
Respectfully, the only thing I'd say about Pepperell is for the town of Dunstable, they're not a third party, because they're partners.
Yeah.
It's Pepperell who you used to pursue.
So Pepperell's been for a couple of years now, they've been pretty good partners on our water.
The private sources.
And so they're really a partner. We're actually just partnered with them on the treasure collector position that we're interviewing this week. So they've been great partners with us too. And by the way, obviously the town of Groton is a very important partner to the town of Dunstable. So don't take that the wrong way either, obviously. But the town of Pepperell is a great partner for us in our waters, on the water side. And in fact, the Pepperell regional solution would kind of potentially facilitate a stronger partnership on the water side with the town of Pepperell if it progressed the way we were hoping that it would, meaning it would be an initial phase one of the project, and the phase two would really be making the connection between the town of Dunstable and the town of Pepperell.
I've been, I live in Main Street, Groton, so I have a couple sewage. And Pepperell has been good in the sewage departments. I mean, they take away the water. But they don't bring the water. And, so our concern was, they had been a good partner for us, taking away the sewage structure. We didn't have an opportunity to have a sewage thing, and we probably didn't want to go, we didn't have it. So just like air, some of our flow goes to air, some of it goes to Pepperell. We have water departments that are very good. And so and my concern and our concern as a community was that there's so much at stake to bring good water to the kids, and so much stake to the residents. And we believe us in control of the water flow in, because we get more at stake than the 3 schools, the 2 schools that we have. Because again, we are concerned about the changes that could happen down the road, and we want to make sure that since it's our kids, we want to be in control of that process to make sure our kids get the best. Not that they wouldn't, but Rob and Dunstable versus.
Could I address the?
Sure, just hang on, because I am going to ask John to speak, but yes.
Before John.
Yes, go ahead, Mark.
One of the original solutions that Jason had up in that convoluted decision-making chart was a decision to do that interconnection. The cost of that project and the interconnection was $18 million. Okay, so the cost was $18 million, and the cost to go out to Dunstable was going to be $8 million, because that interconnection would still go on, but the pipe coming to the high school and the surrounding property in Dunstable were not related to that interconnection, which is one massive project. The interconnection piece can still go on regardless of this particular issue.
Right.
The cost of Dunstable and Groton
Absolutely.
was still going to be $8 million, which is the Groton, which was the pipe from the Jersey Street well to the high school and the surrounding properties. What we're doing now is we're saying, okay, you guys, what I said to Jason and Andrew, the interconnection permitting piece, because you're taking over 100,000 gallons or more, I think you guys are talking about maybe 250,000 gallons at one point, I believe is what the gentleman from Pepperell said, the businessman from Pepperell said. That was going to require a significant interbasin transfer. That's still going to go on. So when I sat down with Andrew and Jason, I said, you guys do your interconnection, that's great, I hope it happens, I hope it works, I know you guys want to get that done. We want to get water to the high school. That's why we went to the straight connection from the Jersey Street well to the high school, because that was the $8 million solution. Doing the broad solution was $12 million, but we're not gonna, the select board last night said, Dunstable's not gonna pay for that extra. You pay the same amount of money as you would under that regional solution with the interconnection. The interconnection is not part of this. You can do that separate from this project, and I hope you do it, I hope it works.
That's true. The only thing I'd say to that, though, is that with the initial Pepperell project, they'd be bringing their pipe to Groton Street. So we just have to go for Groton,
Right.
We just have to loop around. And so that's kind of why it was thought of as phase one and phase two. With this, it just would be, I mean, it would be different.
John?
So, you guys know my thoughts on this from the beginning, which is why we did this earlier. The Pepperell solution, and I'll quote what I did when I went to the property meeting last night. It's like, my my responsibility is Dunstable residents and our water system versus Groton, right? So, our solution, the regional solution that involves Pepperell, also number one, the Pepperell to high school is faster, as they will agree. Which is what everybody wanted from the beginning. We were at meetings where Mark specifically said the fastest solution, and everybody in that room said the fastest solution is really where we want to go, right? And so that Pepperell solution there helps. The Kemp Street issues, all right, there's 30 now, but based on, talking to different people, including Paul from Pepperell, and I'm sure other people think it's gonna get worse. Like that plume of PFAS is just gonna keep moving, and it's moving Dunstable direction. Like you have some down your side, Chicopee, but there's how many Chicopee versus how many Dunstable, right? 2 in Chicopee, 30 in Dunstable, right? So we're gonna have more issues that we're gonna have to deal with as Dunstable water, meaning those people are gonna need wells and stuff like that. And if it's already a Pepperell Dunstable solution in the Groton as well, at least just for the Groton High School per se, and Chicopee Road, then it gives us, and he's saying to control the kids, great, but really the water's controlled by the regulations, not by our kids and not by Groton, and not by Pepperell, not by Dunstable, right? The state says how you have to manage your water, right? It doesn't matter where it's going, right? They say, okay, it needs to be dealt with this, you need to test, you need to pass this, you need yada, 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 right? All of that has nothing to do with, us and our kids, anything like that, right? So I understand that that's, part of it, but has nothing to do with the control, right? The control is based on the rules and the regulations and what is required by DEP. So on top of that, the Pepperell solution with us then allows Dunstable, this is part of that is Dunstable centric to me, allows Dunstable to have an emergency source of water. All right, we had a couple issues over the past year or so, right, where we've had to do things. If we have a connection to Pepperell, all right, and I know we can still do that, but that's a little different thing. They're gonna be treating their wells, they have money that they allocated for connecting to us and to be treating their well that's higher, all right? But that allows us, number one, Pepperell to get our water, so they need it, and for us to get Pepperell water if we need it, right? The Groton solution does nothing to help us in that way. And we're gonna then have to give Groton, they're gonna have to keep adding, and it's on their water system, they're gonna have to keep adding to anybody else that keeps getting that plume of PFAS. All right, so our solution at least helps all the Pepperell water systems, all the Dunstable water systems, the Groton Dunstable High School, and all the people around there, whether it be Chicopee or, Kemp Street and further on, it just keeps going. And it allows us to even, run the water to pipe up so we can add more customers, so they want to protect themselves from that PFAS issue. So, from the beginning, it's just been, we've all gone back and forth, I've been at the meetings and I know Mark agreed with the regional solution, I know the select board chose to do their thing, which they have a right to do, but as Mark had my email in the presentation last night at their meeting, that I am strongly against that solution versus the Pepperell, Dunstable Groton solution. And I understand the money there, that's great, that's one way to make it whole, but it doesn't really help Dunstable in any way. All right, other than the high school and the kids, I get that, but it doesn't help Dunstable where the Pepperell solution does. And it helps Pepperell, so that's why it's more of a regional thing than it is just Groton's water system. Who's then getting, I know it's helping school, but they're also Groton's system versus the 2 towns that are helping as well.
And it'll help those 30-plus houses
Yes,
that are
in addition to all the ones that
and any new ones coming in, and then the ratepayers would be to Dunstable and not to Groton.
And the difference is,
Well, originally we did that.
well, Pepperell is part,
Would be part of the,
yeah, we do it's that. So, and right now, that includes 2 Chicopee Groton residents versus 30 Dunstable. So it's like Groton coming up, they get 2 of their own Groton and 30 of ours. Ours is 2 of theirs and 30 of ours, right, the Pepperell solution. So it's it's more logical in my mind to say, okay, well, the Dunstable Pepper solution makes more sense, because more of the customers other than the high school are ours. You know, they would be now serving all of our customers, which is, 10 times as many. Right? So that's where it's just a little, for me, it makes more sense. And again, Bloom is only going more so that way, so it's just gonna become more and more. 30s, 1,
Dumpster.
40s, 50s.
Yeah, see, I mean, that's just the issue, because originally DEP's number had 23 in
No,
Dunstable.
9, it started.
No, it's just large, yeah, it's just.
Was it at 9? Was it that low?
Nine.
I mean, this number is growing significantly as that plume, which is traveling into Dunstable,
And as the parts per trillion threshold lowers.
lowers, it's
So,
gonna drive that
okay,
decision
further, yeah.
more.
So I just have a couple questions. So is that $1 million offset, sort of the way I look at it, that's a locked in, like the onus of the question is they changed their mind once, and I don't have you're not a select board member, Bud, right now. So you're representing the select board. And I just have, so I also follow Facebook and things like that. And they talked about revoting the decision and stuff. And I know that got tabled. So that's not something that's going to be sort of
No.
changed again.
I wouldn't be here tonight saying anything on that $1 million if I didn't have the select board's full support and endorsement coming here tonight.
Okay.
Now, that $1 million is for the Groton solution. If we do something else, that million.
Right, understood.
Yeah.
Another thing too is I'm not sure how things would happen. If we don't go forward and negotiate an IMA tonight and discuss the legal move forward with this, then we're pretty much back to ground zero, because I don't know what position my board will take. And most likely, we would turn it back over to the Groton Dunstable Regional School District to make the decision on how to solve the problem at the high school and the surrounding properties in Dunstable. And then the Groton Town Meeting and the Dunstable Town Meeting would get an assessment from the school district. We would have to vote on that in 2 separate town meetings. And they'd have to bring in their engineers, they'd have to do their decision making. I don't know how long that will last, which now makes this problem more expensive and taking longer to solve.
Well, your select board could reconsider. I mean,
Well,
that's another option too.
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on for a couple of seconds, all right?
Put everything out on the table.
Not to interrupt, I'm
No, go
sorry,
ahead.
Mr. Chair, but what's happening now is you're being asked to reconsider.
Right,
That's,
Well,
exactly.
now there's more information and
Right.
data to consider.
Right.
So it makes sense, but that's we're being asked, the town council is being asked to reconsider.
and I guess I hesitate because all of us are here because well, at least I'll speak for ourselves and Bud and John and Matt and a few of the folks here in the crowd. We're community leaders, and this is going to sound really crude, so forgive me for it. What the Groton Select Board is proposing is incredibly not inclusive to the Pepperell kids. Like, that's so messed up to me. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. Like, you emphasize Groton and Dunstable kids. What about our friends in Pepperell? Like, I have friends in Pepperell. Like, it seems like a shame not to help them out. Like, that's incredibly not collaborative, not communal. And in a world where there are fewer and fewer barriers, you're creating one. And I can't quite figure that out. Like, it's insane. So, and I think everyone should have access to water. Like, it's nuts. And I'll go to a Groton Select Board meeting and sit there and tell them that. Like, that's silly. Like,
I'm sorry, may I, Mr. Chairman?
You may.
I'm confused into how Pepperell, I think what Bud's point was is the children utilizing the Groton Dunstable Regional High School from Groton and Dunstable, not from Pepperell.
right, but a cheaper proposal is a collaboration of 3 towns, and it benefits everyone, not just those that are drinking water or playing on the soccer fields at Groton Dunstable, right? I mean, like, you're a community leader, sir. Like, you get it. Big picture here. Like, yeah.
That solution gives us the opportunity to get Pepperell.
Yeah, for everyone to be,
Yeah, that's.
yeah, like big picture. So, like,
That makes sense.
I find myself really hesitant to kick a community to the curb. That's just not who I am. Like, it's not how I roll. So,
And it's not the agreement that the 3 towns have had, for a period of time. And, this is news to me, this $1 million thing, and you're asking us to make a decision now in 15 minutes
No,
on
no,
something.
I'm
and-
not asking, I'm putting all the facts on the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
well, you're looking for the intermunicipal agreement to use the legal counsel, and that,
one second.
if we're not in agreement, that could pose a problem, so
What would you do if you were us in our shoes?
ask us to reconsider.
Well, he's gonna
No,
buy.
but I mean, or
He's gonna buy
what would
us.
you do?
I'd sign that into this agreement.
Yeah.
You got one that way, but what would you do?
Well, again, I'm the one that brought up the fact that I prefer to have our kids handled like Ron. Pepple, I get Pepple's another town, and then when Pepple's getting this for a reason that's for money. I mean, we're getting into, we're willing to pay more money to have it handled by our town, because we believe having our kids with our town responsible, with all the stuff that's going to be known for 30 years, things are going to change, things have to change. We believe that we can do that better, because we have more at stake. We have our kids at stake. And so I hear you, that other people may.
I mean, you have a UMass Amherst shirt on. This is about education and like things like that. Like, I mean,
No. It's not speeding up. If it was for a police cruiser, it's a no-brainer. If it's for a fire truck, it's a no-brainer. When we get the health of the kids involved, it says, do we believe that us in control of a situation for our children is better? We believe that.
What
They
can you
say
do
no.
better? What can you do better than that?
Because when issues come up, we're gonna be responding to issues for our children involved. Pepper's gonna be responding for, like we all do. It's gonna be whatever it is for the general.
They're gonna respond per regulations for water issues. It's not a huge.
Well, that's not something.
No, it doesn't. It's the water quality.
It is water quality, but we have good water quality, and there are things you can do to make better water quality.
I understand, but you keep bringing up the kids, which I thought to do with this, there's an issue, it's an issue with the water, and the water.
I agree.
All the same way, all gonna do it the same.
I mean, both options are providing a solution to solve the issue.
Right.
Okay.
This
Mrs.
other one is providing,
Joni?
And so Pepperell is building a treatment plant. I know we're not building a treatment plant, is Groton building a treatment plant?
Our treatment plant is under construction for iron manganese, it's due to go online in December. And they are doing this upcoming town meeting, they are putting money on the warrant. The water department is putting money on the warrant to, increase the plan to deal with PFAS in the future as well. So when they design the iron and manganese plant, they set aside areas to deal with PFAS, and they're going to take those steps as well. That'll be like another $1 million for the project.
And Pepperell will be doing the same thing for us.
Right.
That's part of the project, the money that they've allocated for that project.
In the
It's
Jersey
treating ours, and helping treat our, and
Pepperell.
for future PFAS issues. We don't have it, and now we're below
Yeah.
the 4, but like, they're also planning for the future.
Matt, you had a question? Or,
To me, this is an example of Groton doing what's good for them. And not really understanding that there is a reasonable problem here. Great, give us $1 million, we can do that deal, but we still have more issues that we have to deal with additional homes that aren't going to solve the problem. On top of the fact that we're gonna have to go for another 2.5 override next year, I personally don't want to have to explain to everybody why we might auction is more expensive when we have to ask them to increase their taxes again next year after we just filled it up last year. I saw the Groton meeting last week or 2 weeks ago. I was floored. I couldn't believe they were voting for the other option. And we have an equal footing with this arrangement, and anything that involves the regional school district, Groton controls, we don't have any power over it. Can I ask another question?
go ahead.
Things you like. You disagree with that last statement about Groton controls the rest of it.
So when we started this, your solution was roughly the 16 and 17. You're down to 12. How did that happen? And is that something that could be the same for the Groton school solution? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they looked at the numbers, the original number.
Oh, 16 right there.
The 16.7, so they looked at that original number for the line, and then they went back and they looked at how to do it, 2 crews instead of 1 crew, doing things like that, they came up with the 12.8. The 8.5 estimate was done at the same time as the 12.8, factored in the same issues. One of the things that has to happen on the 8.5 is a chlorine station has to be placed on the line because you have to.
Age of the water.
Age of the water, something like that. So that 8.5 could be mine once they get the design, because they still have to do that chlorine station on it, which wasn't included in that. We don't need to do that because there's gonna be a loop line for the Groton, when they come around and come back, it's gonna be a loop line, so there's not gonna be the water issue.
Age.
Issue
So
we was talking about.
So,
Sorry, go on.
yes, sir. So that 8.5, does that include any money from that?
That 8.5 includes nothing from them.
Okay, so
That's
Pepperell,
total.
and as you know, Pepperell is allocated essentially $10 million to do one or the other one, right? To do either come straight 113 to us or this. So so let's say the whole project is now 8.5. They're saying they'd be willing, you know, I'm just saying this based on what they're saying, I'm not gonna guarantee it, but that to put that money towards it. Now it becomes, for both Groton and Dunstable, almost an incredibly cheap project, right? If they're willing to give 10, and ours is only 8.5.
It's the same.
No.
No. It's that 8.5 million is just running the pipe from the Jersey Street well to the high school and the surrounding properties in Dunstable. The $18 million project, which was the original regional project for the interconnection, Pepperell was paying $10 million for the interconnection. We were still paying the 8.5 for the connection. So that 8.5 would have happened with the interconnection or without the interconnection.
The way to look at it is the 10 million is for the connection between Pepperell. The 18 million was basically this and our connection.
100% correct. If I didn't say that clearly, I apologize.
Take out the 10 million, which is Pepperell's contribution to our connection. You got the 8.5 left, that's our responsibility.
But what I'm asking, I guess, is originally their whole connection was 16.75, and their engineers figured out that we did not know 12.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about
our
the
18, we made,
well,
take ours.
I don't know.
we
I didn't do the, yeah, I didn't do the, I didn't
Yeah,
know.
that's what
we talked about the 8.5 number in our, I think our last meeting. And there was some from the Pepperell side, and I think we all kind of agreed that the 8.5 may be able to come down as well. All of us kind of agreed to that. So,
And I think the 12 may come down too.
Possibly. But I think the 8.5 is probably the top of the number. I think they're the worst case. I agree. I think that's true.
But at the end of the day, the $1 million that the Groton Select Board voted would be, because that $33,000 to $35,000 would be to offset Dunstable's cost. So say the 12.8 came in at 10 million, the $33,000 they set aside because of the $1 million, and that is set aside towards this project. So if it comes in less, it could be less than that, so I don't know.
But then the other thing for the town of Groton, I mean, I imagine somebody in Groton has done this analysis. I mean, you're picking up a lot of water customers.
Ratepayers.
And so you're gonna have,
No, let me talk about that.
you're gonna have revenue coming in that you don't have right now.
No, the $1 million is based on the high school and the surrounding properties in Dunstable. There's no guarantee that the residents along the line will hook up. We did a fire protection in Lost Lake, and we made it open to anybody that wanted to connect to the water line. Not one person took it up. So I don't know if anybody in Chicopee Grove will take it.
That was
The one
actually my
advantage
next
you brought-
question.
The one advantage you brought, Chicopee Grove's fire protection.
Well, right, but there's potential. I mean, I would imagine if I was a Groton resident and I had PFAS all around me I mean, the high school levels were off the charts high. If I was in that area and I had a brand new water line that I could connect to, I may be more motivated than in another area to connect to Groton water.
And knowing the
And-
plume is heading into Dunstable, that more and more people may be inclined to jump onto that in 15, 20 years. Which, at what point, people just may be choosing to jump onto that when there's nothing to do with PFAS, and now they're paying a water rate in Groton which is lost revenue for us. So, I mean, looking further down the line, do you draw the line at what point, say only people affected by PFAS can get onto this system, or, I mean?
What is the revenue from the high school?
Estimated to be about 35 to 45,000. Based on.
And how is that cost offset against the current? Right now, they've got.
The school district is paying $100,000 for irrigation, because they have the truck water to irrigate. They have $100,000 in their budget, and they're spending another $30,000 to $55,000 in water testing on those Dunstable properties. So they have a budget right now of $155,000, and that's going to drop to, under the Pepperell solution, I think we had the rates figured at $75,000, Jason? I believe.
I think that sounds right. 65, 70, yeah, exactly.
With the plant upgrade, and then brought to 45 to 55,000. With the rates, current rates.
Yeah, but, okay, but, and you may not know this answer, right? There's an existing filtration system that's there now, and there's an existing set of softeners in there, right? And someone is operating that system, right? Somebody's got to have a ticket there. Someone's got to have a license to operate that system. All that goes away. The softeners don't get used, the filtration system, there's no more salt, there's no more filters, there's no more anything, because they're buying water from the municipality. Do you have any idea what the cost is to get rid of all that? Those softener tanks and all that stuff that's in that well house?
You could just turn it offline and not remove it.
Yeah, but there's a cost. Someone's paying for that right now. There's an expense
Probably be a
associated.
capital. I mean, it'd be an operating.
It'd be
cost, but
operating
to
number.
get it out would be a capital. It'd be a capital project.
Right. Because so if you talk about a $35,000 or $40,000 annual water bill, right, to the district, that there's actually going to be an offset cost against that, because now the district doesn't need to maintain that filtering system.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, at some point that question is going to get asked, and we probably are going to want to know that.
But right now, I know they have $155,000 set aside.
Yeah.
For the irrigation.
PFAS.
And the testing.
Yeah. Now,
Can't imagine
what is-
they've done much irrigating this
No.
summer.
Let's hope not.
So there's a couple of other things, right? Just as my mind wanders here a little bit, all right? Groton does get water from Pepperell right now, right? Red Pepper Lane. Red Pepper Lane, isn't that supplied with Groton water? With Pepperell water?
Is there any connection up there? I don't believe.
I think there is. I think there's an IMA in place to supply those houses on Red Pepper Lane, which is in Groton, with Pepperell water, right?
I gotta look at that.
I think I remember Paul talking about that, right? That's, and then just so that we have clarity with our process, all right? We all decided, and the district did, that the district was not going to participate in the decision-making process of how all this comes together. They opted out.
Originally, because of everything going on, and we were all working, that is true.
Yeah, okay.
We can't come to an agreement here.
Yeah.
It goes back to the district.
It would. But this,
And I
just,
don't want that to happen.
well, adding another set of folks into the decision-making process only kind of convolutes it, for lack of a better expression, right?
As was evident in my worded email to you, but, I just don't, I guess I don't understand, I know, I'm not saying it well, obviously, how the select board would, after everybody, pretty much said, hey, regional is the best way to go. That the select board, and I'm not sure who kind of convinced them otherwise, that the Groton select board, I use the term I use in my email, unilaterally decided that, no, we're doing this. It's not even, hey, let's talk to Dunstable before we make this decision. It's just like, no, we're doing this, and either Dunstable does it, or we got these other things. So without, to put it easily, and as you guys were saying, it's kind of like, Groton's like saying, do this, or this gets delayed, and it's on you. It's all right.
If I said.
That's exactly what
it's
they're
it's on you, I do not.
I'm paraphrasing it, but that's essentially, right, you're saying this is delayed because of the permits don't have it, this, it's.
And by the way, here's $1 million for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
So.
what I'm trying to say to you is, I went back to my board last night and I said to them, if we're gonna do this, we need to work with Dunstable to make sure that they're not spending more than they would under any other solution. I didn't want that to happen, my board agreed with me, and that's why Bud and I are here tonight. Put that right on the table. And that's why I can understand, I know John has been very clear, I've worked with John a year now on this stuff. And we've gone back and forth on many different ideas, many different solutions. That doesn't show the half.
I know.
It's been a very long, arduous process. Ryan, you've been in some of those meetings, and we've had these conversations. At the end of the day, I want to get this resolved because by January 31st, we have to have a solution to DEP. They're gonna come down with a consent order, and I don't want them to come down.
Right.
So I want to try to figure out a way for all of us to work together. I know my board made a decision, you're here tonight, you made a decision, I'm asking you to reconsider and think about the offer that we have on the table to try to get this done. You know, we've spent $200,000 in engineering. We haven't had Dunstable for any of that money back. It's brought money that we've spent on this project to try to move this thing forward. We haven't asked the school district for it. That's money that the Groton Select Board has committed to this project and has spent willingly on it. I think that's something that I would ask you to please take into consideration as well. At the end of the day, we need to solve this problem. I want to get Brian involved in this. I want to try to get to the point where we can get this done, resolved, and figure out how we pay for it, how we negotiate it, what the rates are, what everything is. And I can't do anything until I get town council involved. And I think, Jason, you know that's me, Brian. I need Brian to help us. Brian is a very ethical man. He won't even talk to me.
Right.
And it was in some side. So anyway, that's my pitch to you tonight, and I'm here on bended knee. I'm here to say, I want to work with you on this. I've worked with you before, and I want to continue to work with you. So I know we have a lot of decisions down the road, and I know that the budget for the school district is going to be a nightmare moving forward. We have a lot of conversations we're going to have about that. I love my relationship with Dunstable. I really enjoy you made a great hiring decision right here with Jason. I look forward to working with him, and I think Jason and I have a good working relationship right now. I think that's going to continue, and I hope we are able to move this forward somehow.
Okay.
So thank you for listening to me. Thank you for having me.
Well, we obviously, we've got to do some work here with this. We're not, ready with this to be codified right now. And I think we may want to even have a water board joint meeting with them so that those members of the board, John and his two compadres, are looped in on this thing so that we come to a consensus as to what we want to do with this. You guys okay with that?
Yeah, I'm not ready to make a decision.
Yeah. So that's, thanks. We appreciate you coming. We appreciate the great discussion and the thought and the effort, and we'll continue to work.
If you need us to come back,
Yeah.
My board struggled with this decision, so it wasn't.
Yeah.
You did, you saw it, somebody watched it. It was a big debate. They spent hours discussing this. And I know they were torn back and forth. They made a decision that they thought was in the best interest of the project. And I hope you guys will understand that they did not do this. I don't think it was done unilaterally. I don't think it was done unilaterally. I think they made it very good in their estimation. They made a decision that they thought was in the best interest of the overall project. And that's what we did.
Okay.
All right.
Guys, thanks for coming. We appreciate it. Bud, thank you for coming.
Good night.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
You've been here before. Yep.
All right, we're going to move along here now and pick up our agenda from where we left off, which would be item 3, which is approval of meeting minutes from the 6:13 and 7:25 BOS meetings.
So moved. To
Second?
approve.
Yeah, second.
That's solid. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Beautiful.
Thank you for making In the minutes.
Item number 4 is a facility use request for the Dunstable Theater Collaborative 350th Anniversary Committee.
I make a motion to approve the Dunstable Theater Collaborative request to use the town hall on the long list of dates. I won't read all of them. For the play called Table Manners. I'd also move to approve the use of the Dunstable Town Common on Sunday, September 10th from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. by the Dunstable 350th Committee for the purpose of hosting an ice cream social.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. All right, and next item will be item number 6, which is MCO Mud District Land Development Agreement and Lease Agreement. Jason, you want to walk us through this?
Yep. So following the board's last meeting in executive session, we, through town council, went back to MCO. And you'll see in this version you have in front of you, there are amendments. I do want to point out on page 14, there's a minor amendment that I received an hour before the meeting. So that is new. That was not in your original version that you received. It's just changing prior to following.
That one word.
That's it. And then on the next page, on page 15, you'll see that section 2 there is just completely removed, consistent with the select board's guidance.
Yep.
And then moving along to the LDA, you'll see it's on page 41 in Exhibit 1. You'll remember we talked about the construction timetable possibly being a little aggressive. They didn't move from it all that much, frankly, but they did. You'll see section 10 has been modified slightly.
Well, that's
Yeah,
I don't know how they're going to do that.
they are very comfortable with it. So
okay.
Giddy up.
Yeah,
outside of that,
seriously.
everything else remains the same as discussed and reviewed. So
I make a motion to approve the land development agreement and lease agreement between the town of Dunstable and MCO Associates for a long-term lease land and development of rental housing at 160, 164 Pleasant Street in the town's mixed-use development district.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Woo!
You gonna do a happy dance for us?
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Was there any proposal on 160 Pleasant Street commercial development? Not yet. Okay. Asking you that constantly, so it's still up for grabs at this point. Although he has control.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It's about,
Thank you for all of your hard
Yeah.
work over these years.
it's been, look at my hair.
Look at my hair.
That was when I started.
You started with hair like Susan's, huh?
No, I never had hair next to it.
Well, mine is more like yours, but it's not colored.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, good.
Union Building Contract for Adaptive Reuse Feasibility Study and Restoration Plan.
Yeah, you can, yeah,
You
so,
want to do a present, you want to talk that through? Or you, Mr. Chairman?
You want me to do it?
sure. You wanna.
It's up to you.
I can start or you can fill in all my
Sounds
blanks.
great, perfect.
So the Union Building Rehabilitation Committee met and we got together and we had the $25,000 from NIMCOG, a grant that they awarded us in order to do a feasibility
From
study.
CPC.
Oh, from CPC.
Yeah.
Oh, that money for NIMCOG was
That's technical
that's something
assistance,
else,
that's
technical
separate.
assistance,
Yep.
right? So the money was to be able to hire an architect firm to do an evaluation of the building and then potential uses and what it would take to bring the building up to standard for any of those chosen uses. There were 2 applicants to the RFP. We had a subcommittee created in order to review those 2 RFPs, and they put forward a recommendation to the entire committee. And subsequently, that committee met yesterday and voted to put forward a request to the Board of Selectmen to enter into a contract with Spencer. Does that sum it up?
You got it.
Mhm. What made them better than the other?
Several things. I think they had both were decent applications. The one from Spencer, they sort of checked all the boxes a little bit more thoroughly. They had an appropriate timeline in which to do the work that coincided with what NIMCOG, their technical aspect of it is what we were asking for. The prices were both right on target. And just a couple minor details.
Experience,
Yeah.
experience with Spencer. Spencer actually was the firm that did the
Envelope
the
assessment,
original
right?
assessment,
Yeah.
So the fact that they're familiar with the town, the building.
Yeah. And they did the town hall here too for an assessment way back in the day, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he also did some of the work in the building around 2000.
Yeah.
So they have familiarity there, and it was very close in the decision, but
Good.
just a couple of things that sort of shoved the needle towards Spencer. So the recommendation of that committee is for the board to go forward with Spencer and enter into a contract for that.
Guess-
Adaptive reuse feasibility study and restoration plan.
So,
So therefore,
do you have a motion to,
I'll make a motion to enter into an agreement with Spencer and I don't know their
Spencer Preservation Group.
Spencer Preservation Group. I don't have the rest of the motion in front of me because I kind of spitballed that, but.
last page?
Move toward the contract for architectural services to create an adaptive reuse feasibility study and restoration plan for the Union Building to Spencer Preservation Group in the amount of $25,000.
So I have a question. Is that amount fixed or is it GMP?
It's fixed, that's it.
It's fixed, right? That's the number.
That's
the
it.
number.
That's all we
it.
got
Not
from-
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed, so it's kind of a GMP.
Well, so the RFP had language in it that said not to exceed. Their bid is 25.
Okay, that's fine. All right.
second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Good. That one.
Okay, item number 8, which is a request to relocate ARPA funds.
Okay. So I have requested reallocation of some of our ARPA funds based on 2 things. One, we saved money with the roof replacement project at the fire station. So we had earmarked $40,000 for that project. It came in at $26,800. So we had some money remaining there. In addition to that, we earmarked another $10,000 for paving on 113. Turned out just for that stretch of 113 that we extended the water main further than anticipated. Turns out that was covered under the contract.
Cool.
So we have that 10 also. So both those together is $23,200. I have accounted for projects, I think that you have in front of you.
Yep, we do.
And I'll run down them. First, we have talked about the irrigation at Town Hall that was repaired, hoping to cover that cost with ARPA. There was some electrical work at Town Hall that was recently completed, essentially almost solely related to trying to get the downstairs HVAC system working as it should, which it is, yay. In addition to that, the town hall HVAC that serves my office, a portion of the upstairs office space, and I think some of this hallway, now is a mess. So it needs some work. It's got a leak, so we need to seal it up and then put some refrigerant in it so it will last the rest of the year. But I was told by the contractor that it's approaching end of life.
Okay.
But this will get us through at least this year. There's an estimate for electrical work at the library. It's basically for the parking lot, getting those lights working. Total cost of that project is $2,900. Library can cover $2,000 of it, so asking for $900 to cover the balance. Fire station HVAC is not functioning right now still, so we have a quote to do those repairs. And in order to do those replacement actually, and in order to do that HVAC replacement, there's electrical work that's needed in order to allow that, to facilitate that happening. In addition to that, there's other electrical work that needs to get done at the fire station, and I have those quotes somewhere. Here they are. So one was, okay, Chief, I might need you on this. So we received quotes on a number of things because he was there and he was looking at things. And the fire alarm panel at the station could be replaced. Is it a priority? It's not a priority, but there's this constant humming noise, I guess. That isn't,
That's nice.
what's the word? All that,
It's an annoyance.
it's an annoyance, thank you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be done. He gave us a quote for LED lighting fixtures. It'd be great to do that. It does not have to be done. But we did receive a grant for a new exhaust system. We need to do that upgrade, correct? So there's a quote in there for that. And then what was the other quote, Chief? Do you know?
Yeah, it's for the compressor of the SUV fuel station.
Thank you.
That's been on service for over a year. I probably had it taken out of there. We had some equipment donated, so the stuff's been sitting there now for a year. We just gotta get it. Everything's there, just gotta get it hooked up. We have to move the electrical, where it comes in. Just get it hooked up, so that the stuff's been, we got a number of those donated by Fire Tech Safety. So the stuff's been there now for almost a year, we can get it hooked up, so allow us to do that.
Could any of this stuff, like for the mini splits or whatever, could that be used with green communities?
I don't believe so, unless, I don't know well enough.
Yeah.
Unless there was some energy efficiency component to it.
Yeah, but it would be, right? I mean, these mini splits are considered.
Only if you have a SEER rating greater than 22.
Our clock's ticking on ARPA money anyway, so.
Yeah, well, right.
And
Yeah, but
so for green communities.
Just has to be designated by 24, yeah.
For the fall round of green communities, NEMCOG is going to provide some assistance with applying for that money. And the conversation now, up to this point, has been either to use it for a portion of the new cruiser, which I think has been done in the past year. The other conversation that we've had is, because we've had some conversation here at this level about EV charging stations, potentially looking at that as a potential funding source for public EV charging stations. So that's kind of been the discussion up to this point on green communities.
Okay.
so.
Or mass saves for the LED lighting or something like, anyhow, I'm just trying to find other ways.
Yeah, that, now new LED lighting, that could be.
Yeah.
Sure, that could be a great
Okay.
use.
Okay. Anyway, all right.
We okay to read the motion?
Yes.
Yeah. I make the motion to approve the reallocation of ARPA funds, changing the $40,000 originally earmarked for the fire station roof replacement to $26,800 and removing the $10,000 earmarked for paving Route 113 and allocating the balance of $23,200 as follows. Town Hall irrigation, $5,340.27. Town Hall electrical, $2668.73. Town Hall HVAC, $1811.13. Library electrical, $900. Fire HVAC, $62.50. And fire electrical, $6227.87. Total $23,200.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, town administrators report. I'm sorry.
I said, but I make a totally off the wall comment.
Go ahead.
How glad I am to have the art of construction zone.
Oh, I can, yeah.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
It is, the last week was a real bad one, but anyway, it looks beautiful and it's done and everything looks great. So,
Is the exit coming out of Westford Street improved? I haven't done that yet, but.
The sight
yeah,
lines are better.
The sight lines are better?
Yeah.
yeah, not perfect, but it's like, yeah, it always is harder.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, they made the current corner a 90-degree corner instead of the rounded corner.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a radio anymore, it's a 90 degree, you gotta really slow down and turn in.
But you can see who's coming. Yeah.
Want to sit there, want to get in, so
Yeah.
it's just a, they should have moved the sidewalk back. Just would have been better.
Yeah.
I told them that when we went to plan, they just told me, they know it, so.
Yeah.
What do you know?
What do you know?
You don't drive there.
Thank you for all your help with getting the road down here. Much easier to do.
Yeah, a little nicer.
Yeah, it does look good.
Okay.
All right.
Town administrators report.
Good.
Ooh, I have one thing before that. I heard it's Chief Farrell's 1-year anniversary.
It is.
Yeah.
Wow. Congrats. You stayed with us.
You're 1 day and 1 year past some other chiefs. So.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that's about right.
5-year contract, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Very lucky to have.
He's stuck.
Thank you.
That went
Okay,
by fast.
I'll only take about an hour. We'll be done, so. FY25 budget worksheets, I've updated them all. They're ready to go. So we're, we're trying to start the budget process much earlier than we have before, so they won't go out quite now, but sooner than normal. In that vein, we've also started capital improvement plan. We've had an initial meeting. I am now working to put a draft plan together based on submittals I've received and feedback I've received from that meeting, and we'll hopefully be wrapping that up quickly. You also know I reached out to the school district and town officials to start a school town budget working group, which was met with enthusiasm by the school department. And so I'm looking forward to working with them on that. So just so everyone knows, the members are select board chair, advisory chair, invited both school committee representatives from the town of Dunstable, superintendent, director of finance and operations, and me. So we're working I wanted to have our first meeting at the last week of this month, but it looks like it's probably going to be pushed out to the first week of September. So stay tuned on that. The HVAC and ceiling repairs in this building was a really fun project to manage. We are really close to getting it done.
Heard it was a good time.
I finally heard from Service Master
Just
they're
waiting.
coming back out Monday. So hopefully by the end of Monday, next Monday, we will never see them again. I've been working on, I think I updated the board last meeting, been working on bandstand IFB. That's very close. That should be ready to issue next week, I'd say. So again, stay tuned on that. But that was more work than I anticipated. Reconciling cash continues. Mass Munifin was here yesterday, working with Bonnie for most of the day. She's coming back at the end of the month. By the end of the month is when we hope this will be done.
That was easy, huh?
Oh,
Jesus.
telling you.
It's a year.
Yeah. Representative Scarsdale called me, I think the end of last week. She has been convening a regional group to talk about economic development regionally, and I think in some ways locally, and how that kind of ties in with the region. Town of Dunstable has not been involved in those discussions up to this point. She called to ask if we'd like to participate, and encouraged us, actually, invited us to participate. So from how she described it, the town administrator / manager of communities have been participating. A member of the select board has been participating in this community. And then someone representing the quote unquote historic interests of the town, historic preservation, et cetera, have been participating in those discussions. The next meeting is the 19th, which is a Tuesday from 9 to 10:30.
I can do that.
If you don't want to, I can too.
It's going to be in person. They don't have a definite location, but it'd be great if somebody here wanted to do that.
I'll do it.
If you want it, Leah, let me know.
I'll do
If
it.
not,
What the hell?
tell me.
Why not, right?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, okay.
Sure. Who's going? We drawing straws?
You just
okay.
volunteered.
I'll do it if you don't want to.
No.
So I bowed out an incog, but this seems interesting. So.
Leah is gonna go.
Okay. So, and if, I don't know if anyone has any ideas on, the historic piece, but a representative from the town.
I have a few people in my back pocket who I can call about historic stuff.
All right. Treasure collector position. We were scheduling interviews for Thursday, but that has changed since I wrote this. So Monday.
So
We have candidates.
Good. I know.
We have, I would say, qualified candidates and
No repeat candidates?
no.
Okay.
No.
That's good.
First round Monday, and then we're gonna have to figure out a whole bunch of other things after that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to be done there to make sure we're doing that right.
Okay.
State budget, the governor signed the state budget. Our local receipts number increased very slightly. Our assessment stayed the same. I also did put in the Groton Dunstable School District numbers. Their numbers actually were much better. Not much better. They were better. About a little over $300,000 more than the governor's. I got that wrong. Oh, no, that's right. So it's about a little over $300,000 to the school district. The major variance is the regional transportation. Also in the state budget was the fire chief's new vehicle for $50,000.
Well, happy anniversary.
Yeah.
Look at that.
And,
What are you getting? Corvette?
Tesla.
PT Cruiser?
Yeah.
And then the
Peace.
And then the joint Grassport culvert earmark for $250,000 was also included in the final budget. So that's really, all of that's good news for the town, so.
That's good news.
Yeah.
That's an imminent issue, right? That's a
Yeah.
serious
It is.
situation.
Yeah.
Town IT reps from Town of Tingsboro were here today to discuss their proposal and kind of have a view of what our infrastructure looks like.
You can take that.
They went to town hall and they also went to the police department. So that was good. I'm optimistic about that. I don't know, Sue, do you have any? Sue's been helpful in the discussion.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
It felt good after.
Okay. So, so that's going well. I also did get notified by Humble. They've been doing like month to month because their contract expired at the end of the fiscal year. They'd send me an email actually today saying that month to month is not going to work for them anymore. So, so they were kind of terminating those services at the end of the month. So we're going to have to figure that out. But Tingsboro is excited and enthusiastic to partner with us.
Yeah.
And their select board's meeting Monday.
Good.
And he's going to talk to them about that. So.
Does that include our email services?
Yeah.
So like I got a message from email saying my box size is too big.
Yes, it's running out of
I deleted
storage.
almost like everything.
Oh, you're running out of space.
Yeah, storage capacity.
And I guess if we can ask Tingsboro if I can just put the email actually on my phone rather than like have it auto forward to a Gmail account, like, or if we can just go to Gmail.
Oh,
Can't do it with it.
I
It's
know.
not really. It's not.
Oh, you
easy.
have an iPhone. I was gonna say, because I have a ghost, executive ghost. Yeah.
Is on Gmail?
They do, yeah, they're Google.
They're Google.
But yes, I have it right here.
but-
It's just a boop, it goes right to it.
We need to manage change. We need to manage the change here. So they're they're very capable of. We're looking, I think, at the moment to just upgrade our Microsoft and Exchange products right now.
Okay.
I think that's probably
Baby
where we're
steps.
at.
Yeah.
Baby steps. And then the last thing is the Groton Town Manager had a meeting of his kind of town school budget group yesterday, which I attended. They invited me to attend after receiving the letter that I sent. And
gracious.
So it was great. It was a very good meeting, and I did kind of take the opportunity to give them an overview of what we went through to balance FY23 and what our forecast looks like in what we went through to balance FY24 and what our forecast looks like for FY25. And I did just put in, the projections that they've given at the moment is a 14.5% increase to the Dunstable assessment, which equates to about a $1.12 million increase.
14? 1-4?
Our assessment this year went up by 7.5, just to give you a frame of reference on that.
14.5.
So that's where we're at.
That's the number.
That's the starting.
John's going to explode out there.
We're gonna sell it. We're gonna sell this building.
The only reason I said it.
We're gonna sell a kidney. Whatever I have two of.
If they want it.
Well, I've been thinking that too.
The national.
Pepperell, could they take us?
At high school, really far away.
But I think it will. I think starting these conversations earlier, getting everyone around the table, and aligning it with Town of Groton, with the school district. I think just from a decision-making standpoint and funding strategy and approach, I think that it will help the situation. So that's where we're at.
Mrs. Simmons.
Just curious, Is anything being done? We only have two people on our FinCom, our advisory board. Is anything being done about that?
You have two people?
No, they need to staff.
Oh, yeah, they have to come, they have to
participation.
Well, they have, no, they have, who's?
Two vacancies.
Leo and Jim
They
didn't,
have two
didn't,
vacancies.
Jim
There's not
left
two
town
people on
and
that
Leo,
board.
Yeah.
There's
Two
not two
vacancies.
people, two vacancies.
You need two people.
Well, I'm not on that board, there's other boards there, I'm sure that, it was a common name.
We need two people on the historic commission, and we're short one on affordable housing.
Can we just put a push out on all of our websites?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a list
Again?
of all of our vacancies, so I'll do that.
Yeah,
You need to put a list out of what's
yeah.
maybe our
We did do that not that
capital
long ago,
planning
but we'll do
people
it again.
can shift
Yeah.
over to advisory. Like Jeff Rosen's a pretty nice guy.
Yeah,
Pretty well informed, good
yeah, he's interested
Perspective.
too.
But he's on the building committee too. He
Yeah.
and-
but I know like capital planning doesn't meet a lot.
Can't be on any other committee and on the advisory.
I don't think that's true. I was on like four committees when I was on.
That is the
I
bylaw, that is the way the bylaw is written.
It's in the elected.
was on tons. Like capital, CPC, advisory.
Yeah, right.
They know, no one around.
Okay,
Did it?
new business, old business? So I have just one, and this is a housekeeping matter. So this now becomes a document that was given to us at the public hearing that needs to make its way into the records for that, okay?
Yeah.
Because there's information in here that needs to become part of that licensing process, all right? I don't know how that happens, but, okay, it cannot be just,
Yeah, we'll scan it and include it.
you have to, you do, you need to have it become part of the record.
Yep.
Anything else, comrades?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.